The only thing that makes us wonder is that Trump lost, right? So we wonder for the 7 states that he lost with mail-in ballots, but we don't wonder about the 12 states that he won. I think the issue is we need to accept sometimes that people we don't like can win, and that really sucks. I remember we all made fun of the Democrats in 2016 when Trump won, and there was that picture of the girl in the hat and the glasses, and she, right?
The United States has been under a slow coup for like 100 years. I don't know if you, and I'll tell you why I think this. But that's the thing about fascism, is it can be very peaceful.
For who?
For the people.
It wasn't for Mussolini or Hitler or Japan or...
What's the question?
I don't think it was very prosperous for most of the guys that tried fascism.
He said peaceful, didn't he?
We're in a fascist system right now. Corporate government collusion. What do you think about the New World Order?
We're going to be talking about the American electoral system. Has it failed us? Are our elections secure? Is it rational or reasonable to doubt the count, as they say? I'm going to give you each brief introductions, and then we're just going to get to it and have a conversation. Sound good? Any questions? No. Okay, let's get this show on the road. Destiny, you're the host. You get to start. Has the American electoral system failed us?
Yeah, because in 2016 we didn't rig it hard enough. No, I don't think so. I think that when we talk about the election fraud claims, I think there's a couple important things we need to center the conversation on. So one is outcome determinative fraud. Sometimes people can correctly point out that maybe a couple people, miscast a ballot, or maybe there was like 7 dead people that ended up getting purged retroactively from the voter rolls. Obviously, there's a lot of people that live in this country. There's a lot of people that vote in this country. And, sometimes mistakes happen. But every single time there's been an official investigation done or an unofficial investigation done by a company that's not insane,
we missed
you
this.
end up with roughly the same voter count as you had before.
We missed this wick up here on the 8:30 turning point. It's incredible how it just always works. Like the 8:30 turning point is so real. This is literally the 15-second candle at 8:30. Literally 8:30:00. It goes up and wrecked. So that's missed that trade, but 9:30 is coming up too. We'll look for that one as well.
Whether a couple votes get added on one side or a couple votes get taken away from one side, I don't think we've ever been convincingly shown evidence that there's been outcome determinative fraud or ballots lost or anything else that would affect the vote totals in any of the states that people have tried to investigate.
Okay, well, thank you. Ian, we're going to turn it over to you, bud.
My concern is I agree with you in that it's hard to determine fraud, but it's also hard to determine no fraud. The systems are set up so that you've got to trust the voting tallies behind the scenes, and we really should be in a trustless system at this point. Like to feel like you have.
Yeah, I like Ian, man. He's a futurist, dude. He's all about the decentralization of systems, the graphene. So yeah, I mean, I agree. The system should be completely trustless, dude. You should be able to anonymously vote while having your vote anonymously visible to everybody. And we can easily do that with cryptography and blockchain. You can completely decentralize it, trustless, and I think that's the direction we need to go. I mean, Bitcoin was the first step in creating a decentralized government. I think step 2 is decentralizing security, and that's, I think, very doable. It's kind of something I've been brainstorming about for years, and if I had the right technical co-founder, I'd be really interested in trying to do something like an Uberization of a private security force globally. I think would be really, really interesting. And then that would be step 2 toward a decentralized government. And step 3 really is just decentralized governance, which is like voting and policy. So yeah, I mean, if you have like the money, you have the governance, and then you have the security, that's, you can pretty much run a decentralized state that can be global. While also being fully decentralized and digital.
You have to rely on another human being to do the right thing is not viable for the function of our mortality. I don't think we can function as an objective species if we have to trust each other with voting. So I want to see evolution to like a blockchain system where you're still going and you're still pulling the lever, you're writing it down, but then it goes to like 9 different blockchains for verification. And if somebody gets their hands on 2 of those blockchains because they've got 700 million army of dudes clicking to take control of it or whatever, you still got the other 5 plus blockchains to verify your vote. And then you could go online and like scan a barcode with your account to make sure it's tracking your vote correctly.
That's all you need, buddy.
But as it stands with voting machines and with proprietary code, there's no way to tell if those machines are flipping votes in the background.
Yeah.
Okay. With that, I'll open it up.
Yeah, so firstly, at the end of the day, we're always trusting somebody, right? Like if we do blockchains, we got to trust that the people that create the blockchains are creating it correctly, I guess.
That's
you can
false,
argue that,
dude.
I guess for blockchain stuff, you can open source it and you're going to have people
It's
look at the
all
code.
open
But also,
source, bro.
I mean,
Okay.
no offense, like even the
So
average
that's
crypto person doesn't even know what a blockchain is.
They don't have to know what a blockchain is, dude. Only the people who create it need to know what it is, bro. It doesn't matter. And you don't have to trust it. Of course it's open source. That's the whole point.
Or doesn't understand any of the underlying technology. And I don't know if introducing that many electronic aspects into everything, it's so many potential points of failure that would encompass so many different votes if any of these systems.
Is it though? You know what's a lot of points of failure? A different voting system that's manually collected across every county in every state in the country. That's a lot of points of failure. That's a lot of points of failure, Destiny.
Would get compromised. I don't see how we would have more trust in that and not less trust.
I would envision like lots of different points of failure so that if like 90% of it went out, the other 10% would still hold the system up. So like, not that if one goes down, the entire system fails, but it's like kind of decentralized points of failure is more what I'm looking at doing. And I agree that it would probably confuse the hell out of people and scare people to think that we're going digital, but like we've already gone digital with voting machines.
Well, but we have.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure every single voting machine in the United States prints a paper ballot every time you do an electronic vote. None of it is like there's a paper ballot for every single vote that's cast in this country.
But that could still be flipped before it gets
You're saying
printed.
like, this is beyond my pay grade. I don't know what happens. I've never sat privy to like a voting machine, but you're saying you go and you push it on the voting machine, it prints up a piece of paper that says what the number was, they hand it to someone, but they put it in a box.
There should be a paper ballot trail, unless it changed for the last midterms, there should be a paper ballot trail for every single electronic voting machine in the United States, where after you enter it, it'll print out like an electronic thing where it'll send the vote totals and everything, but for every actual vote that's cast, there should be a physical paper ballot trail behind every single vote that's cast.
But is the person...
Yeah, there should be. But the
There is.
verification process, there's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know how to verify it personally. People will tell me
are
that a
the
guy
individuals
verified it, and I'm like,
verifying that,
I guess
though?
I mean, the DOJ and everybody else that investigated it said everything seemed to be working well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
People, we investigated ourselves. We found we're doing no wrong.
The
I'm
federal
not saying that
government
they
is not a
are,
state
but-
election board. The federal government is not a county. I mean, unless you're considering the entire government as one entity, I don't know why that wouldn't be them investigating themselves any more than a $50 million donation from a Trump-backed super PAC that goes to a private company to investigate it isn't investigating themselves, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we're all humans investigating ourselves, but I don't think that the federal government or the Department of Justice doing an investigation into a county, which sometimes they don't even have jurisdiction to do it, doing an investigation into their election procedures. Yeah, I mean, what else could you possibly want? What other kind of thing could you, what else even exists?
I just told you, a decentralized, blockchain-based, trustless voting system.
Like an audit?
Yeah, like what other kind of audit would you even do?
Well, what they did, and I just found this is kind of weird, in Arizona and in Georgia for the audits, they hired this company, Dominion hired this company called ProV&V that they've been working with since 2017, according to the the EAC, whatever this election committee thing is that they built after 9/11. They built all these committees after 9/11. And ProV&V, they called it an independent audit, but ProV&V has been working on their machines since 2017, so it was a company they knew came in and did the audit of their own stuff. And that was like, at the very least, find like a group of companies that are literally unrelated to the system with no vested interest. But I mean,
I'm pretty sure, at least in Arizona, they were like, I think at the end of the day, they hired like 7 different companies to do these audits. There are so many companies that have audited these elections. There are so many players involved. I don't understand what the anti-establishment line of thought has gone from, we need extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims to, we need absolutely the slightest, thinnest circumstantial evidence to just wholeheartedly believe the most extraordinary claims possible. Like voter fraud on the level that Trump and his ilk are attesting to would be the largest scandal maybe in the history of the entire planet. If
I
the
do
U.S.
have a-
election was stolen in that way with that many people, with that much coordination, it would probably be the largest election scandal of politics in the history of the planet Earth. And there's zero evidence for this.
I do have a question for each of you along these lines. So I understand that there is no evidence of fraud, right, in these things. However, we understand that voters' trust in the perception of fraud is important when people need to be confident that their vote can cast. Is there anything that either the state governments or the federal governments can do to make people more confident in their votes?
No.
What do you think? No? Just straight up?
No, the lack of confidence doesn't come from the process, and it doesn't come from the procedures, and it doesn't come from the state governments. It comes from politicians. Like, Ian was talking about a blockchain earlier. Bro, nobody wanted net neutrality under Obama because they thought Obama was going to be like watching your Pornhub access. Like Republicans never wanted any of this when it was suggested by a Democrat. Now they want some types of things when it's suggested by other people. Do you think that like the Biden blockchain would instill a lot of confidence?
I mean, the thing is that the parties have flipped, dude. The Republicans used to be, a lot of the former Democrats are Republicans now because the Democrats are psycho. So anything that you're talking about in the past is not relevant. I mean, today's Republican Party is not the Republican Party of Bush. And no, we're not trusting Biden's blockchain, bro. We're fucking using a decentralized blockchain. Putting everything on the blockchain. Anyone can run a node. Why don't you verify the election integrity yourself, Destiny? I will too.
Confidence in anybody voting who's a conservative for Donald Trump? Like,
He
do you think
doesn't
they would
really know
be
how
more willing
blockchains
to
work.
accept that particular election result if it was on, the State Department blockchain or?
If it was on enough blockchains, different blockchains, if the government wanted to create their own blockchain, I could see people distrusting that.
Yeah, of course.
I picked 9 as kind of an arbitrary number of descaler like invalidity. Like at some point you're going to hit a threshold of like, well, it's at least 78% bulletproof.
Yeah, but like I'm just imagining. Are you familiar on the tech level how this would work?
Of course
Say
he
again?
is.
Are you familiar on the technological level how this would work?
you?
A little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to imagine. So you've got maybe a few million different systems now that are going to be on election day, all trying to write to this blockchain. So whatever
Yeah, everyone
algorithm
can
or
vote for
code
their
you're solving
phone,
for,
bro.
it needs to be incredibly simple and incredibly easy, but not so easy that you can do a 51% attack against the network. So a bunch of external systems couldn't compromise it. So and then it's going to be this blockchain is going to be processing an ungodly amount of traffic on one day. I don't even know if and then it's going to be across 9 different chains. And if any of these computers drop at any of the upload processes, you're going to start having different blockchains that are going to start to veer away from one another. Like if
not
let's say
how
that
it works.
let's say that a whole bunch of
What
computers in
are you
Detroit,
talking
their
about,
internet
bro?
connection dies in the middle of the night when it was uploading to 4 different blockchains. Well, now the other 5 blockchains are going to have a different blockchain for the rest of the vote, and that just feels like a tech nightmare to me. I just can't imagine trying
Blockchains don't
to
die.
have that many different computers doing election results. I don't know, unless.
It would be. I mean,
Such a
I
bad
kind of look at it
art.
as like, what nightmare do you want to?
Oh my god. He really thinks he actually knows something about this stuff, which is funny. That's funny. Oh.
Do you want to trust people to handle your paper, or do you want to trust a machine that's proprietary as in code in the background, or do you want to trust? Because I agree with you. It would be hell on earth to try and coordinate that. At
let's
least
go
it
back to
seems like it
5,
at face
yeah.
value. And
Yeah.
also, if the machines that are sending the data
ugly,
to the
ugly,
blockchain are corrupted at the
That's all the
entryway,
topics,
they're gonna if they get a vote and they flip it really early on in the code process, then it doesn't matter. They'll feed the wrong answer to the blockchain. But then it's up to the voter to go in and scan the code and be like, that's not what I voted for, or that is what I voted
I mean,
for.
that's also an issue
it
too, though.
is.
Regardless of maybe we would change fundamentally how we do some voting things. You don't really want people to be able to verify who they voted for, just that they voted. Because right now it's impossible to buy a vote in the United States because you can't tell who you voted for. If you would offer me $100 to see who I voted for, you don't know unless I take a picture of the ballot, which is technically illegal. I'm pretty sure in most states. But if I can go and look up afterwards, man, I might do $50,000 on Twitter. I'll give $100 each to people that prove to me that they voted for Trump or they voted for Biden. And now you can actually go on the blockchain and look it up. I could actually make whole websites where you can enter your information and automatically get a payout for every single Biden or Trump vote that you install on the website.
That's a good point.
I think there's a whole host
I
of
think,
problems that
as I
come from
said, I
that
think it
as
should be
well.
anonymous.
So you think
The
it's
votes
safer
should be
that
there.
people cannot verify?
But they
Correct.
should
I think
be
it's a
anonymous.
fundamental. I think it's a cornerstone of the anonymous ballot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you, Ian, if I may.
Yeah, I mean, I
on
agree.
that
Like,
subject.
you should verify it as it's going in. Make sure it's going in correctly. And then it's anonymous on the chain. I mean, You're not going to, maybe you can personally do it, although then under duress, someone holds a gun to your head, makes you use your keys to validate. But that's, I think it's a good point. But yeah, I mean, definitely these things should be anonymous on the chain. You shouldn't be associated with your vote in any kind of visible way. You want it to be anonymous. But the vote should be visible for everybody.
Anonymity. One, I would like to know how important anonymity would be to you in the voting process, or at all. Is that an artifact of a lesser age? That would be a question. The second question I have is, aside from, as you acknowledge, the technical nightmare of using a blockchain, what other more minor corrections do you think the federal or the state governments can implement to increase voter trust and increase the security, in your opinion?
So the second question, the first thing that they could do is instantiate a freeing of the software code of Dominion machines or any kind of corporate computers that are running vote tallies. We need to witness the code and make sure that the code is not instructing it to flip a vote, a yes vote to no. We need to know that.
Yeah, everything needs to be open
Would
source.
that be something you would be against Destiny? Do you think that they should be required to open source
these
their
are things
code?
that sound good, but on a tech level, what does that even mean? Let's say that we open source the code on all the Dominion machines. You don't know what software version your particular Dominion machine is running, right?
Well, they should all be open source, and they should all be legit, not flipping votes.
Say that 1.0 is open source on the internet. I can see exactly how the code works, and then I go to my Dominion machine. I don't know what source that is running, right?
I think you can go on the EAC, that election website, and they'll tell you, I think it's running like Democracy 5.4 or something it's at right now. They go up in versions every year. They'll more or less every year.
Sure, but I'm saying if we don't even trust the EAC now, why would we trust them to verify the Dominion open source code that goes onto the internet?
Yeah, I wouldn't trust my own government to do it. You would need
who would we trust then?
I don't know, like a group of independent coders from around the world. But then
From
you've
around
got
the world,
four
from Russia and China and Iran to verify our...
Like, if you had a Russian guy be like, along with 9 American guys, be like, yeah, and they all agree, and you get the Russian guy to agree and a Chinese guy to agree, and then that might be even more fortuitous than having
if the
only
9
Americans.
American guys are like Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Glenn Greenwald, or whatever, I don't know if I would trust these guys to verify the...
It would I think it would be open to the world would be able to verify, because you're just looking at like a neutral platform. You just want a machine that does what it's supposed to do.
Why is Destiny so resistant?
Do you think there's a chance?
Is he just trying to fight?
We're talking about...
Is he just trying to fight for the sake of fighting? Is he really defending closed source code in voting machines? I mean, blockchaining this shit, making it all immutable and public, that's a different story. But open sourcing the code in the private machine is an absolute no-brainer. We should not be running any code for our federal elections that isn't open source. That is insane.
About over-engineering arguably one of the simplest things in the world, which is voting. Do you think there's a chance that maybe just everything in the election went as it was supposed to and people are just unhappy with the results?
There's a chance. I just don't think it's a very high chance now. There's this guy testified in front of Congress. His name's Eugene. It was like 2002. God, I wish his last name, but he was a coder, and he's like, he testified that he built a machine that would flip votes 51-49. And if you didn't have the software code, you wouldn't know. And he's testifying in front of Congress on this. I'm like, what the fuck?
Anybody could build a machine that flips a vote. The question is that machine what people are voting on voting day? Dominion has the ability to do that. But again, there are paper ballot trails. This is why every time these machines get audited, remember, even Barr himself had the FBI tear apart one of these Dominion machines and investigate it, and no malicious code, no Hugo Chavez ghost, no nothing to look at where people thought there's something wrong here.
Yeah, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is not whether or not these machines work. And the point is we shouldn't need to trust anything. We should be able to verify this personally if we have the skills, and we should be able to lean on specific people that we do trust to verify this stuff if we don't.
It might be the code. They might be on the up and up. I don't know. The problem is I don't know, and I want to verify
that.
The
problem is I don't think you can ever know unless you personally go and inspect it, because
Which
we're
is
at
the
a point
point.
right now
That's
where
the
people are saying
point,
we can't
Destiny.
trust
That's the
anybody.
point, buddy.
And these
It's
are
not
people
that
with
hard.
conflicting interests too. William Barr
I
has every
understand.
interest in
Obviously,
Donald Trump.
you're a private company. you're selling something, you want your proprietary intellectual property to be secret. Yeah, but if you're working with the federal government, we should not allow that.
Remaining president, and he's the one saying that, like, yeah, there's probably no election fraud here, or like his own
829,
campaign staff, or his own chief of staff at the White
929.
House, Mark Meadows, or
Here we
or
go, baby.
Bill
Here we
Stubby, his
go.
campaign
9:30
election
coming
manager, or
in.
any of the people that work alongside him. Like, all these people are incentivized. If there was any voter fraud whatsoever, to say like, oh yeah, look, we found voter fraud, and all of them are saying no. So if we think that every single one of these people is either compromised or inept, the same people that Trump trusted to lick the election, well, what private independent person are we trusting? None of us trusted Twitter,
Not just
2
one,
years ago
bro,
before
that's
Elon
the
Musk
point.
bought it. But do we trust Twitter now? None of us
It's
trust
very
Susan
easy to
at
create
YouTube.
incentives
None of us trust
for
Zuckerberg at
people,
Facebook. There was a little Cambridge.
for multiple coders to be kind of checking each other, and like if you catch someone doing something nefarious, you get an extra bonus. They'll check each other, and yeah, it's just, you don't have to trust one individual person. You can trust a consensus based on incentives, and you can bring in your own expert that you already trust.
Cambridge Analytica thing. So these are the largest private firms we've got in the United States. We don't trust the government when it's ran by the guys who would have every incentive to say what the voting outcome is if it was actually fraudulent. And we have no direct or circumstantial evidence of any voter fraud. It failed in every single court case that was brought up by Trump's team. So there's all this mounting evidence that it seems like everything was probably on the up and up, but we still don't trust it. I asked the question, who would we possibly trust? Like, who do you think people would possibly be satisfied
kind of
with?
I would trust the masses
We have a
in
divergence
general. Like,
as
if the
well
code was
here on the
open
5
and
minute.
600 million people around the world were like, yeah, that's legit, and here's why, then I would be like, okay, that'd be
But then we
better.
return to the technical question. How do you make sure that code is running on every box? How do you know that code is running in your particular voting machine?
I mean, you could verify it on a machine by machine basis when you go in there. Maybe you can get a printout of the software code on demand if you ask for it.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're really hacking machines, right? We would just spoof whatever the printout is, obviously.
Well, if our code's open source, then we're not doing that, right? We have that the code is, we know how the code is spitting out its version. But yeah, obviously you can create like a new version of the code that says it's spitting out an old version number. Maybe you hard code that somehow into the machine and how it displays the name of the software somehow. That's not the most difficult problem. And also, you're solving so much that even if you just have to have someone come in and verify which software is on the machines. There's a lot of, I think that's a pretty easy problem to solve. I would say.
Right, like let's say that there was a thing where the machine is like, oh, running software version 1.0 democracy protector. Well, if I had like a compromised machine, I would just make it print out that, oh, I'm running version 1.0 software protector. Or even, depending on the type of stuff we're talking about, maybe the malicious code wouldn't be in the machine. Maybe it would be upstream. Maybe it would be at the first router. Maybe it would be there's a million other places. We're going to start to need central servers to collect all
that
the
you
data
can't
too.
do. Okay,
So
that's
wherever
again him not understanding cryptography and like you're not going to be able to intercept it at a router level because it's an encrypted packet. So you wouldn't be able to do that because you have a private key that's kind of writing in as part of that, and they wouldn't be able to regenerate your private key to regenerate the transaction.
That's going. I understand like the tech problems are always like very attractive. They're very sexy because technology can do so many cool things. But the cryptographic part, the real stuff, not cryptocurrency, but like making sure stuff is safe and secure and reliable at that level is, I think, really, really difficult. And paper ballots just do this exceedingly well. There's one ballot for every person. It's really hard for one person to take like 100 ballots and run around with them. It's hard for that much stuff to disappear. It's hard to rig that many ballots. Like, it just works really well, I think.
My issue with paper ballots at this level is this doesn't scale properly. Like
Yeah.
if we were in here and we all did one, we could
Okay.
probably correlate them pretty easily. But like when you have 600 million people over the geographic, 500,000 square miles or whatever the fuck, like
I think it's around like 330 million people. But
Yeah, but
330, yeah, just the U.S.
maybe a lot of illegals came in under Biden. I'm not sure, maybe, but
How do you verify that those papers went to the right spot? I can't.
I mean, one precinct at a time, right? One county voting booth at a time, one district at a time. That's how we've always done it. It seems like we haven't had any problems so far.
Seems like it, but I don't know. It's tough to say. We shouldn't have to wonder whether or not we did or didn't.
Yeah, but my whole point is
know.
we'd wonder no matter what. Again, I ask you, what would we possibly look at that doesn't make us wonder? The only thing that makes us wonder is that Trump lost, right? So we wonder for the 7 states that he lost with mail-in ballots, but we don't wonder about the 12 states that he won that had mail-in ballots. Or we wonder, about the people that say that the, God, what was it? Was it Ruby Freemason? I think was the lady in Georgia that Trump and Giuliani had said like 1 billion times. She was the one who was running the votes like 3 different times over and over again. The Georgia counting area where the water exploded at night and all the new boxes were dragged in. Like federal judges and other people, Trump himself, and we can all go and look at these videos on the internet. Raffensperger published them publicly. We can see the same videos over and over again. Nothing weird happened. Those voting boxes were there the entire time. It was a toilet that broke down or whatever. Like nothing weird happened and people still don't trust it. So I'm just, if you're not, there are circumstances where I can understand somebody being like, I'm kind of skeptical. That I can understand. But right now we're at an unbelievable amount of skepticism for something that there's not really any due skepticism for other than the fact that Trump lost.
I think one thing you said earlier, like people making claims that saying that without justification or without the proof, you better have proof if you're going to make a claim. I don't like that kind of mindset. I don't like people that make claims they can't back up.
Question for you, Ian. When you speak of proof or a claim, could you elaborate on what you mean? What would you accept as proof of a claim of election fraud? So say Destiny came out and says, this was rigged. What would you need to see as a voter, as an American citizen, to say, oh, okay, that there's something there?
Geez, that's a good question, because even testimony is not good enough. If someone was like, I cheated and I didn't give the box, I'd be like, I still don't even know if that person's lying or not. I can't tell. If I saw software code that showed that a machine was tweaking numbers, that would make me be like, okay, now I believe that there was fraud in that machine.
Yeah.
If I saw video of someone taking a box, that wouldn't be enough. Especially in the age of deepfakes, now there's going to be a lot of manipulation of what you see and you hear. So the things you see and hear aren't necessarily going to be good enough either.
So if we can't trust our eyes, we can't trust our ears, we can't trust anything, but as Destiny mentioned, even the printouts might be spoofed. It seems to me that we have a fundamental problem. At a certain point, we are going to have to just kind of blind.
Well, here's the thing. We don't all need to be voting on the same voting machines, right? We can all, if we're talking about a crypto voting system, a blockchain voting system that hopefully anchors into a real blockchain like Bitcoin, making sure that everything is, so you use layers, right? Of course, we have layer 2, layer 3, layer 1. If you understand crypto, you know about all that stuff. Bitcoin's a layer 1 system. That's where you anchor everything. And you can anchor the entire election into one Merkle tree on the Bitcoin blockchain. Probably you don't do it that way. Probably you do it for maybe one for every... I don't know. Maybe you do it nationally, like every 5 minutes or something like that over the course of the day. But you don't need to. Everyone can vote from their own hardware and software if it's open source. So you can. Everyone can. You don't have to trust the machine. Your vote. You're putting your vote in with the software that you trust based on information that you kind of are gathering from the world. And I suppose. Yeah, I mean, then you could have someone scam a bunch of people into voting on the wrong stuff, and then they could get charged, and that could cause problems. But ultimately, if you give people options, I mean, to me, that's good. In a previous video, I talked about this, but options are life, and life is good. So I think giving people options, letting people vote on the ones that they trust. The Trump campaign can put out their own software, right, to vote. As long as it's on an open standard, then Trump voters vote on the Trump software, right? They can put out software that only votes for Trump, so you don't even have a choice. You download the other software if you want to vote for the other guy. You can get it straight from the campaign, and then if he fucks up the software, then I guess he doesn't get his votes. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but the point is that the underlying infrastructure, the database there, be open source and immutable and verifiable. and anonymous, but nationally verifiable from anyone.
Blindly trust these institutions. But and this brings us to kind of a further topic that I wanted to touch on, is the rapid decline of trust in institutions in America. We have seen a rapid decline in trust of media, trust of our legislative officials, of our academia, things like that. How do we fix this? How do we bring trust back to the American people? And we'll start with you, Ian.
We don't need to. Trustless.
I'm fine. Personal integrity is a big part of it. Like for myself, I just try and do what I say I'm going to do and listen. Hopefully that'll ripple out into society and more people will behave like that and then gain trust personally, and then those people will become business leaders. But realistically, we shouldn't have to trust people. Like we shouldn't have to.
I agree.
We should never feel like we have to trust each other. Like the whole driving down the freeway at down a road at 40 miles an hour and another car's coming at you at 40 miles an hour, like we trust each other, but like there's also car accidents and we can't afford a global car accident right now. We can't, these systems should not be like, oops, I dropped it on the ground. That can't happen in voters. So, I don't know if I'm derailing from your question exactly.
No, you're fine. Go.
So I think the age of trust maybe is over in a lot of ways. Digital trust, and that's why I like cryptocurrency a lot, because like smart contracts will just trigger. Like instead of me sending a check to the electric company and then some guy's like, yeah, the check looks good, let's make sure he turns his power on. You're trusting the electric company is going to turn your power on. The cryptocurrency, you send it to the chain, wherever, the wallet, then the wallet flips a digital switch and the power goes on. There's no middleman.
Yeah, but even for smart contracts, don't you have an oracle that you have to trust at the end of the day to like verify the result and actually?
Well, that depends on what the smart contract is about, dude. And again, you can pick oracles that you trust. But if for something like that, when you're talking about turning on electricity, there's no oracle. Where's the oracle in turning on electricity? The oracle comes when you're talking about gambling on like a world event. Like you have the Super Bowl last weekend, right? You want to put a bet on that. Someone's got to verify who won the Super Bowl at the end of the day, and that's the oracle. That's where that term comes from, if you don't know. But obviously Destiny doesn't get it.
Activate that smart contract? Isn't that the whole point of an Ethereum smart contract? There's a third-party person that actually activates the code in the chain once a condition is met?
No, it's the machine triggers. So it's like you have a machine. You don't have to trust the machine's going to do what it does. It just is a machine that does the thing.
Yeah, but like
if
I create, somebody can correct me. I don't know. Fuck Ethereum.
You
but,
don't, bro. He's correcting you, bro. He's correcting you. Just relax. You're getting corrected. Just keep your ears open, buddy.
In a smart contract, don't you need a third party? Aren't they called an oracle? Don't you need a third party to verify when a condition has been met? If we've guaranteed or bet on something, or we've done for like, how does a smart contract know when to activate?
God, I'm not answer. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh my God, I thought you
feel like
knew this stuff.
I feel like for society,
what
it's either
the hell? Oh my God, Ian, I thought you knew this stuff, dude. I thought bro, are you kidding me? You don't know what an oracle is? You don't know what the answer to that question is? Oh my God, Ian, come on, buddy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, but for those of you keeping score, you need an oracle when you're talking about a real-world situation like the Super Bowl. You don't know who won. You don't know what the score was unless you have an oracle. Not the case when you're talking about paying for electricity. Not the case when you're talking about voting. So hopefully that distinction is clear, and Destiny, maybe you can learn something.
Trust or slavery. Like there is no in between. Right now we have a society built on the idea that we trust each other with pretty radical responsibilities. When we're driving down the highway, we trust each other to follow the laws and the rules on the road. When we go to the ballot box, we trust that our fellow American is going to vote in our best interest. You know, theoretically, we have a constitution that would allow us to vote away all of our civil rights, allow us to vote away any protection from police, allow us to vote away, literally anything we could possibly conceive of. But we trust that we don't do that. The alternative to that is some sort of authoritarian system where you've got one leader dictating to you what you're going to do because there is no trust in the population. I think our whole system is built on some level of trust, and I think we need to come back to recognizing that again. Democracy doesn't work with a fundamental distrust of every other person in society. It's built on a...
Well, I think we need to make things trustless when we can and as much as we can. And in the case of voting, we definitely can. No question.
Big trust that every other citizen will act in all of our collective best interests to some extent.
In addition to having a trustful society or a society where you have a demagogue, you could also have a system where there's no leader and the system is just functioning. It just functions and we're part of a functioning process.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I like it. I like
you
it.
fetishize
I like
crypto stuff so much How
Yeah,
many?
you just don't get it, Destiny. You don't realize that Bitcoin is the answer. What's the question?
Many times, like even, I wish I remember more about this. Pretty
You
sure the
don't get it.
blockchain
You
has
don't
split
get
for
it 'cause
Bitcoin
you're
one time.
clever.
Is it called Bitcoin Basic?
Ew.
Anybody know? Where are my crypto people
He
at?
doesn't know what the fuck he's talking
You
about.
guys, I scared you all off with that same episode. I think, what? They're all making money? Oh, they're not. Oh, true. They're not here because they're all millionaires. They're all at the big Hilton, I guess, downtown. Yeah, but I mean, like even blockchain split because people don't like the results of what was on the blockchain prior to that. I mean,
Oh, he's
yeah,
talking about
people still do
Ethereum,
NFTs
Ethereum
and they get scammed
Classic.
like crazy. People do new coins.
Yeah, he's talking about the Ethereum, the ETC split. It would be a good point. Is it a good point? Because they did, they basically pulled back a bunch of money that got stolen out of a smart contract, essentially forking the chain and rewriting the chain is really fucked up in terms of crypto ethos. And I don't think they would ever do that again, but the fact that they could in the first place was a big red flag for Ethereum. But Ethereum is not Bitcoin. Ethereum is the state coin. So it's GovCoin at the end of the day.
Means they get scammed like crazy. Like this idea that blockchains are introducing some fundamental level of trust, that there's going to be like a universal, Jesus is going to come down from the heavens and he's going to have a new coin for us, and an IPO is just not realistic.
Okay, trustless is not trust. Can we be clear about this? Trustless, trust. You see that how they're opposites? Well, I guess they're not opposites. I trust, I don't trust. Trustless is a trust.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't trust Jesus. No, I love the guy. He was probably pretty cool. But the whole Roman Jesus crap, like, what did they make a religion out of the guy? I don't know what happened. Trust. It's just I'm looking for the least worst thing. None of these things are good. I don't think paper ballots are good. I don't think voting on electronic machines are good because if the power goes out, you're screwed. A lot of this stuff relies on electricity too, which is another problem. We need backups. Like I'm all about revolutionizing our republic and like allowing people to pass laws from home. This is a bit of a tangent.
Can you elaborate on pass laws from home?
Yeah, like
what do you mean?
Right now we have one representative represents roughly 700,000 people. That's unpalatable.
Yeah.
They cannot. I can represent me. I can't even represent you to someone else. Only you can do that. So we've got 700,000 people hoping this guy is going to vote the way they hope they do. But what should be happening is all 7,000 of those people should be, there's a different ways to go
So
about this.
direct democracy instead of representative.
No, a direct republic. So we'd be voting yes or no, our 700,000 of us in our district, it would go onto a blockchain or in some sort of smart contract that would then click yes or click no. You wouldn't have a representative doing it for you.
Yeah.
You'd have a machine, and that way they can't get bribed because it's a area of vulnerability.
I like it. DPoS, bro. Or DPOV, designated proof of vote, bro. That's what I like. We need delegated proof of vote, dude. That's what we like. I really like that idea. Let people pick their own representatives, but not every 4 years, not every 2 years, not every 6 years. Every vote, you pick your own representative.
Of these representatives. But then if the power goes out, we default back to what we have right now where the representatives will go to the Capitol and do it on paper. But that's an option.
I think the issue is we need to accept sometimes the people we don't like can win, and that really sucks. I remember we all made fun of the Democrats in 2016 when Trump won, and there was that picture of the girl in
Destiny
the
just wants to argue. He
hat
doesn't
and the
want to
glasses
grapple
and
with these
shoes.
technical concepts.
Right.
But
And I remember
unfortunately, Ian doesn't
over
have
and over again saying,
enough
well, in
of
2020,
grounding in
if
them
we,
to really
if we
like,
lose, what we're
speak
going to
on
do?
them. I thought
We're
he
going to work
did.
the next day, because that's what we do. And they didn't go to
but I
work the next
guess
day. They tried to overthrow the
I guess
election.
not. I really thought
And then
he
they
did.
protested for 4 years, and it's been an ongoing
Maybe
protest
he
trying to
has
vote
the
in a guy
technical
facing
chops, he just
91
doesn't
indictments
have as
on
much of,
felony
like, a
charges. Because they're so upset
crypto
with the system just because they didn't
background
win.
as me.
And this is from a
He's
group of
newer to
people
it and didn't,
that
like,
enjoy
learn all this
such
stuff.
an ungodly amount of institutional advantage. You've got the Senate, which is 2 senators per state, which is a massive favor to Republicans. You've got Congress, the lower house, the House of Representatives, that is apportioned in such a way that more populous states have more representatives, but that's not proportionate. Smaller states still enjoy a huge advantage in the House of Representatives. And you've got an electoral college vote that also massively favors land. That's how we get into situations where a Republican can sit across from and go like, oh, well, who got more votes between Trump and Hillary? Well, actually Hillary did, you idiot, but Trump actually won the electoral college, right? You have these situations where I can't imagine today, if Donald Trump were to win an election by 4 million votes and lose the electoral college, I think Republicans would lose their minds. I think they'd lose it. I'm just looking at all this, that if conservatives have so much institutional power, not institutional power, I'll say institutional favor in the way that our democracy currently functions, if you've got all that going for you and you're still upset about losing, I don't think there's any concession you could make. I think at the end of the day, we're just trying to create other systems to get us to the inevitable answer of how do I make my guy win? Not how do I make the election more secure? How do I make sure there's no voter fraud? What's an easier way to vote? It's how do I make my guy win? And anything that's not that is corrupt. It's you don't trust it. It's a deep state swamp. It's the government investigating themselves, et cetera, et cetera.
You know, the whole I want to make sure my guy wins thing, I don't really like. I'm more like make things honest so that whatever happens is real. But then I'm like, well, maybe manipulating the world to make sure that your morality is at the top is what's been happening this whole time.
Of course it is.
But I don't like the idea of like people using violence to get their guy into power. That's horrific. I don't know, man. Where do you fall in the whole like willingness to manipulate for the greater good?
What do you mean manipulate?
Like maybe not count that one this time. But
if that was happening on such a level, somebody would have said something.
Not what
The
he
idea that there would be thousands or tens of thousands of
That's
election
what you think about it. He asked about your moral opinion.
officials that are all doing these little sleights of hand, and they're surviving audits. So I guess the next people were making the same, mistakes, in air quotes. It's such an I hate that I'm even debating this. It's such an unfathomably, if you believe this, you should be a God-fearing man. There's way more evidence for the existence of God from Aquinas than you could ever find for existence of voter fraud in the United States. So I don't want to hear any atheists talking about how they think that the election was stolen or you think there's even a 51% chance of it, because if you do, there's nothing for it. It's such an unbelievably huge claim with such an absurdly small percentage chance of it ever happening. Remember, we're talking about the largest fraudulent event, the biggest political event in probably all of human history, having occurred with not only zero evidence, but zero evidence when investigated by an entire government that was completely and totally incentivized to find any evidence of it actually happening. For all of that to be true, and for them to find nothing is unbelievable to me.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, it seems like, why would I even question it? They just said it was real. Why would I even question it? But my hypothesis is that we've been under the United States has been under a slow coup for 100 years. I don't know I'll tell you why I think this. Basically, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, they went off on Jekyll Island, and over the holidays, when Congress was away, they ramrodded this law, this Federal Reserve Act, into power, and it gave control of our banking system to this private organization called the Federal Reserve. So all these private bankers, John Rockefeller and his buddies, they were like, because what happened was the American government split up Standard Oil, John's oil company, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and John was like, you're never touching my shit again. We run this show. So this is my hypothesis. They set up the Federal Reserve.
And to be clear, they did this to retain power, and they are still doing this today. That's your hypothesis?
This is the theory, yeah. And I don't know if it's they are the same.
Do you have evidence for this, sir?
Well, then there's this thing called the business plot. I don't know if you guys have heard of the business plot. This is one of the freakiest things I've ever heard of in the United States.
What do you mean evidence? You just talked about Jekyll Island. The Federal Reserve still exists, bro. It's still owned by member banks. All right, bro.
Recently learned about it. 1933, a bunch of wealthy businessmen get this guy Smedley Butler, who's this decorated World War I general. He's the most decorated general in the United States, to go overthrow the American government, lead 500,000 men on Washington, D.C., and depose Franklin Delano Roosevelt and set up a fascist dictatorship. Legit plan. Smedley was proposed. He was playing along with it. And then he comes out, there's a YouTube video of him telling the people, I'm not going to do it.
In 1933, there was a YouTube video?
It's 1933, the business plot.
Okay.
And they call it the most generic term, the business plot. So it's boring, you don't even think what it was a thing, you forget about it. So they wanted to overthrow the government, set up a fascist dictatorship then. And then Then we're looking at, I don't know, the JFK assassination. He wanted to break up the CIA. CIA was like, no. The CIA is the central authority. We're not going to let that happen. Hypothesis. And then it leads us to 9/11 and the immense centralization of power after, from 2001 to 2003, the amount of agencies that were set up.
Wait,
Homeland
why does
Security.
every government on the planet seem to favor central banking with a fiat currency?
Well, they don't. They're not.
Well, because the Rothschilds he sent his sons to all the different countries in Europe to set up central banks, and also because it lets the government spend on debt. It lets them spend money that they don't have, so they can go conquer lands and plunder, like in the old tradition.
supposed to, but it's easier, I think, because then you don't have to do the work.
Do you think it might be easier because it's better for a country to have control over their currency and it allows them to manipulate macroeconomic trends?
The country doesn't have control over the currency. The central bank, private families that own the central banks do. That's his point.
That lead to favorable economic conditions in their countries, that maybe it's actually just good for economic development?
Does Destiny actually think that that's how it works? Does he really think that the U.S. government controls its own money?
Wouldn't it be weird to think that in 1930, like imagine you're reading this, post-apocalyptic horror story. In 1933, these horrible bankers overtook the United States banking system, and this is what they did. Over the next 90 years, they created the most prosperous country on earth that actually managed to control all global trade, and the standards of living were better for every single person, and they helped lift all these other countries out of poverty, and they sent more humanitarian aid and blah, blah. Isn't that kind of weird? Wouldn't you expect that, the United States... Keep in mind, in 1933...
Wait, so you're an authoritarian? You think that, yes, authoritarianism is effective. They did a good job of taking over the world, setting up a... Pax Americana, global dollar hegemony. Yes, dictatorship, centralization can be very effective at certain things, not so effective at other things. Yes, Destiny, yes. Are you understanding, buddy?
Really that hot shit, right? It wasn't really till post-World War II that people were like, oh shit, America, right? So did these guys take over everything and they just happen to build a better society for everybody in the United States?
It's more peaceful.
Well, it's better for everybody in the West, yeah.
You could argue it's more prosperous for a lot of people, but that's the thing about fascism is it can be very peaceful.
For who?
For the
It
people.
wasn't
That's
for
the
Mussolini
question,
or Hitler
bro.
or Japan.
For who, bro?
What's the question?
I don't think it was very prosperous for most of the guys that tried fascism.
Well, we're in a fascist system right now. Corporate government collusion.
Can you just hold on,
Yeah.
gang. I appreciate it, but I want to hear the answer to this. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
What about our
easy.
current system do you consider fascistic?
And I should explain, it's a gradient scale from 1 to 100. We're not at 100 on a fascism scale. We have elements
So
of
like
fascism.
a 60, a 70?
Yeah, and it goes up and down, it changes, but the way that the government colludes with corporations like Alphabet and Twitter, they were with Twitter, and
Yeah.
it's pretty blatant, the industrial
And with
agricultural...
Pfizer, bro,
and
they
Monsanto.
Just again.
Hundreds of millions of people
Can you
to
be
take
more
a Pfizer
specific?
jab multiple times.
What institution or system currently in the United States would you say is the most fascistic? That is leading towards
Social media?
Social media, okay.
What's an example of fascism in social media?
The government telling someone to ignore a store, telling a social media company what to do with their company.
Like when Donald Trump, was it Chrissy Teigen, when he wanted her tweet censored because she called him a pussy-ass bitch?
What did he want?
I think Donald Trump, it was either his team or him personally, he requested on Twitter, I think it was Chrissy Teigen was the name, where she called him a pussy-ass bitch and he wanted that tweet taken down.
Yeah, that's fascist.
Yeah. Do you think that when the Biden administration makes a request and they're like, hey, can you take off my son's cock pics on Twitter? Do you think that's fascistic in nature?
Yeah, using the weight of government to manipulate social media is pretty fascistic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Isn't it up to the social media company at the end of the day if they want to choose to listen to it or not? The FBI put in hundreds of thousands of requests and Twitter ignored the vast majority of them. Is it not possible that they just
Really
agreed with some
depends.
things because they're like, yeah, this is probably, we agree with this as part of our policy?
The way that it
Could've
happened,
been,
I
their
would say it's
alignment of morality could be part of it too.
Well, not necessarily alignment morality. When we saw the Twitter files, we saw all the leaked emails. Nobody in any of those Twitter files, when that New York Post story came out, at least from what I remember reading, nobody was saying guys, the government's on us. We gotta do this shit, like holy shit. It seemed like there was a lot of legitimate debate over whether or not that story was a hoax, and probably for good reason. That's a pretty unbelievable story.
Except that
Which
we
one, the
that
knew
a
about-
blind guy got a laptop a long time ago from the son of the president, and that just happened to have like information that he turned over to Rudy Giuliani. That's a pretty unbelievable story.
Also,
Even
the
today, that's a
FBI
pretty unbelievable
knew,
story.
the
The idea that people at
CIA
Twitter would look at that and go like,
sent their
you know, I'm not too
meetings
sure
out
about this
to
one. Let's
flood
like
the
pause it for
story,
a day
dude.
or put a
Come on,
warning on the
bro.
link or whatever.
Come
I don't
on,
think that's
bro.
fascist. I don't think it
Come
required any
on,
government
bro.
intervention. I think it's pretty fair to think that that was a pretty exceptional story and there might have been foul play there. And they let it back on Twitter after a day.
I think it was 7 days or something.
I thought
All right.
I thought it was
Got it.
24 hours for the New York Post story on Twitter.
House
It was right
Clearance
before an
team.
election. It was just sleazy. In my opinion, it was sleazy shit for a government to go in and be like, take that story down about the guy who's running for president's son.
I mean, like, I think it's fair that the government has done questionable
There's some
shit
divergence
before an
here.
election. I would say that the most outcome determinative thing that the government did before that election was absolutely Comey making public announcements about Hillary Clinton's investigation. Why don't conservatives ever talk about that? That was insane.
Which one?
When both of them, when Comey came out and he excoriated Hillary, which, by the way, if Pisco is watching you and special counsel, they did the Biden investigation, because now we've got on some routine, like found some classified stuff, turning it over, blah blah blah. Now we have like a 350-page thing detailing, okay, my main boy Biden's having some memory problems. All right. The only reason we have that report though is I don't know what the rationale was for publishing that report publicly. Nothing got publicly published about Pence.
Well, Destiny, if I may, if they hadn't publicly.
No, hold on. You may not. No, it's
Mine
so
may
annoying.
not.
Wait.
What?
Hillary sat in front of that Benghazi hearing for 12 hours, okay? Biden sat in front and cooperated for however much he needed for this whole 350-page, ass fuck report to come out to talk about how bad his memory was. All of these different Democrats cooperate. Hillary and her people gave over everything they had and gave access to everything they had, except for, I guess, all the deleted emails, to all of the investigators that they could. Donald Trump, okay, you could look at this motherfucker on the street and say, what time is it? And he said, I'd plead the fifth. Okay, you could look at Trump's mom and ask him, what's your son's name?
I understand.
And it's like, oh, I've got executive privilege. They don't testify ever. They don't turn over anything ever. They hide. They use every single right they have to possibly avoid prosecution or avoid even questions to the public or any Senate testimony or committee or any hearings in Congress ever. And then people are like, well, remember that one time the New York Post story got
Does that
censored
make
for
you
one
trust
day?
Trump more or less when he hides that information, when he pleads the fifth? Does
And
that
when he
make you
doesn't
trust
publish his
Trump
taxes?
more or less?
Say probably less. I don't know, what do
Probably
you
less.
think?
So if they had refused to publish the special report and simply kept it secret, do you think that would make people trust, and again, the theme is trust, Biden more or less?
Selective transparency is no transparency. It is not fair to say that if you get transparency on one part of a thing, that you have a better understanding of what's going on. That we saw that with WikiLeaks when stuff started getting leaked about the DNC and Assange, okay, an American-hating fucker, okay, when Assange himself said, I'm not going to leak anything about the Republicans because, I'm not going to leak anything about Trump because people already hate him. That, there's nothing I could leak that's even worse about him. And he's only selectively leaking. It gives you this weird impression that only one side is doing anything wrong. And I think that's bullshit. Well, I don't know. What do you think about the fact that Trump won't testify for anything ever? That Trump is pleading the fifth? That all of the people around him are pleading executive privilege? That he never even published his taxes? Like, how does that make you feel in terms of his openness compared to Biden or Hillary?
Whew. Compared to, well, that's another question completely, but I'll answer both of them if I can. The lizard brain in me, the animal, is like, I don't trust that piece. Like, anyone that's going to hide, I don't trust them. But then my greater thoughts take over, and I realize, well, we created a republic so that you don't have to incriminate yourself. You're allowed to not answer. And that's
Absolutely.
okay. I've got to kind of
That's really
override
good.
my emotions and be like, well, I'm not gonna I'm not going to distrust him just because he didn't answer the question. But I would like to see the data. But that's his right. You know, there's a reason that that's there, and I don't necessarily even understand where it came from, the right to the Fifth Amendment, to plead the Fifth. But I'm sure, because if a dictatorship came in and they're like, admit it,
to you, Ian, you're willing to put trust in Trump because you think that requiring him to reveal all these things would be more authoritarian or fascist in nature. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't know. I don't necessarily trust that guy. I don't trust a lot of people in general, but it's also a scale. Like trusted from 1 to 100. You never have to.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is I'm trying to compare this to trust in the voting system. So you're willing to put aside some of your qualms with trust in having someone have to reveal questions or not allowing someone to plead the Fifth, and you're willing to put trust into, okay, I understand, I don't like it, but we'll put these things. Why aren't you willing to extend the same courtesy to voting systems, voting laws in states?
Jasmine is a little baby.
So like I guess the metaphor would be that like having proprietary code on your voting machine would be like pleading the Fifth for your vote. Well, corporations are not people. I don't care what the law says. It's a ridiculous law giving them personhood. And I don't think that a corporation's function has the right to not in self-incrimination. It's a corporation. It's beholden to the people, and the people have the right to see what that thing is doing with our data and our structural function of our society. That's my opinion.
Would there be any limits? What would be the limiting factor to that? So could I go in, say I don't trust a pharmaceutical company. I think they're putting poison in my pills, right? Am I allowed to request proprietary information on those pills and things like that? Would that be something that you would be for?
I would be open to that, legislating that. It would probably just decimate profit margins for some of these companies. So we'd have to do the calculated opportunity cost of how much damage it's gonna do to the capitalist sector. But it could be really good for people to be able to verify they're not getting fentanyl in their opiates.
Okay, I do want to kind of steer this a little bit back. We've gone all sorts of places. Let's go more simple. Voter ID, good or bad?
I think it's
good.
Good. It
Man,
seems good at face value. I'd love to hear an alternating opinion on it.
Of course,
but it seems
good.
pretty normal.
Same question.
We kind of talked about
I mean, the idea.
this on the stream earlier. I don't think anybody actually cares about voter ID. I feel like Democrats don't like it because they think it'll reduce the people that will vote for them.
You don't think anyone actually cares about voter ID? I mean, people who want it definitely care, bro.
To vote, and I think that Republicans want it because they think it'll reduce the people that'll vote against them to vote.
That's not true, dude. A lot of people have integrity, bro. You seem to think that no one has, especially in the Republican Party, that no one has integrity. There's a lot of people who are in the middle voting Republican right now because they have integrity.
When they tried it in, I think it was in North Carolina, that seemed to be the goal of the state legislature, was to try to figure out every possible way to reduce the minority vote. I think that if conservatives came with a reasonable option where they were like, hey, listen, we're going to do federal reimbursements for states. Every state can send out a state ID to every single registered voter in the state at no cost, and all you have to do is show up with us, and we're going to make voting like a national holiday, but we're going to require voter ID in every state. I think a Democrat would have a really hard time fighting that publicly without looking crazy. But I don't think Republicans actually care about getting more people to vote. I think they're just trying to prevent certain people from voting. Otherwise,
Like
that proposal,
people who
I feel like most people would accept it.
citizens?
Like in most European
Is that what
countries
you
that
mean?
liberals jerk off all the time, they all
Is
require
that what you
voter ID.
mean?
It's
Like
not a huge
people aren't
problem.
citizens?
Yeah, I don't think
Is
voter
that
ID is
what you
inherently
mean?
bad. I just think that the
They're
way that
trying to get to
people
stop voting?
weaponize it, I think it's
Trying
usually
to
just for
get
some
the
political
let vote?
Machiavellian end. It's not actually for the principle of having voter ID or not.
Noted. Another simple question. Should we federalize the voting system? There is a lot of mass confusion and a lot of differences state by state to rules and regulations regarding things such as mail-in ballots and absentee ballots, etc. What do we think about federalizing this system? Or is it good that we keep it in the state's hands? What are our thoughts?
When it comes, federalizing aspects of the function, I could get down with, like.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I want to see the voting software. If there's a company that is trying to be like, we've got your best intentions. No, yeah, we're going to use the federal force of power to guarantee that has my best intentions before I use it. Thank you. But as for states' rights, That's where it all began. That's where it should stay. I think that states have the right to hold elections as long as they're willing to do the election in good faith. If they want to use their legislature to change rules and things, but they got to use their legislature. Like what went down in Pennsylvania, the governor made a change almost at the last minute and bypassed the legislature. Like that's, I don't, you know, but that's another conversation. Like, should states be able to do unconstitutional things? That's a different story. No, you got to follow your own constitution.
Fair enough. Any comments on that, or we'll move to the next?
50 state elections, that's how it's ran right now. It would probably require a significant overhaul of our system to change it otherwise. I think the system as it is right now, it works.
Excellent. When it comes to the upcoming election in 2024, obviously there were doubts to the integrity of the 2020 election. Do you think if Trump loses, how likely is it that there will be a repeat of the 2020 issues?
Man, why are these
challenging in court
markets so
and,
asymmetric
casting
right now,
doubt on
man?
the election? Do you think A, he would be in his right to do that,
hell?
and B, how likely do you think it would be that he would accept the results of the election? Give me a percent.
The
Percent?
asymmetry is
Sure.
crazy.
23% that he'd accept it at
Okay.
face value. He'd probably, I don't fight it. I don't like that term fight because then people, you see him in the street, what the hell does that word mean? But he might challenge, I'm sure he would challenge that. But damn, man, unless you can see what those machines are doing, like the code, there's just I cannot think of a way to verify it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're already calling the next election fake, so I'd say 100% they would accept, or 0% they would never accept any vote that went against them. Yeah, I think that's pretty
I
simple.
don't know what you might accept.
That's where the Conservative Party is at right now.
Are you talking about rhetoric? Are you talking about court challenges? Because at the end of the day, it was accepted. The election has been over. There was a peaceful transition of power.
No?
At what point do you think that there should, if any, should there be consequences for casting doubt on election integrity, such as that? When you do make claims without any proof, without any evidence, and simply engage in flooding the zone with shit, as they say, about aspersions against election integrity. At what point should there be consequences, either legal or perhaps social, for that? What do you think?
Casting doubt and making false claims are different, or making claims you can't back up.
What would be the difference to
Like
you?
casting doubt is, I don't know if they're valid or not because I haven't been able to verify the integrity of the code. I have doubt because I'm not able to verify it. I have doubt, casting doubt, but I'm not saying they are fraud. Like, I'm not making that claim because I don't have the data to show you, and they're very different. I don't like it when people make baseless claims, or I think they get sued into oblivion. That's good. You fucked up a corporation's ability to make a profit. That's the law. But at the same time, if you're smart about it, you can cast enough doubt that they're forced internally to revolutionize the way that's more my methodology.
To force to revolutionize their internal system. Okay, fair enough. What are your thoughts?
You have the First Amendment right to say a lot of stuff. I think
Yeah.
you can cast all the doubt you want.
I agree.
You can make false claims if you want, technically, depending on the particular state you're in and the type of claim you're making. You can get away with a lot. I think there should be consequences, but those consequences should all just be social or electoral. Somebody's saying something we don't like, or something that is contrary to American values, like not
agree.
trusting the integrity of our vote or
agree.
trying to undermine it. I would hope that people wouldn't vote for a person like that, or I would hope that there would be a social responsibility there. You would never, ever, 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 ever want the government being involved in policing people's First Amendment right to be skeptical, especially of our own government. It would be deeply anti-American.
Yeah, all right.
Excellent. Okay,
I agree
so
with
let's
Destiny on
talk
that
a
one.
little bit about,
That's why we
you
like
mentioned the
Destiny,
Her
'cause at
report,
least
and
he, on a
I am
very
curious,
base
since this is
framework
on
level,
people's minds,
agrees.
Biden's mental acuity, is that an actual concern, or
Yes.
do we feel
yes,
it's more
such a concern.
manufactured
Holy
doubt?
shit.
We're going to start with
Oh
you.
my god. Anyone who says it's not a concern is absolutely lying.
I'm very concerned. We were watching a video from him from like even 2020. He was so sharp. Like even in like 2014, 2016, he was pretty sharp, like sharp dude. It's Biden. But then now the way it's like the slow, like it's like, whoa, dude. And he's the commander of the military. That's his number one job, is commanding troops. If you had a commander acting like that, step down, brother. Like the next guy's going to take over for now until we hire another commander. It's life or death. And I think people maybe unfortunately have lost touch with the life and death nature of reality because we live in this coddled society of the United States for so long. It's such an amazing place, peaceful. But it's like devastatingly necessary to have a coherent commander of the troops right now.
And you feel that Biden isn't up to the task?
I
Absolutely
feel he's
not.
not up to the task.
Absolutely
Do you
not.
feel Trump is up to the task? Because
Well,
we've
he's
seen
up
similar
to the
gaffes from
task.
Trump.
I don't
If you
like
watch
him. I
some
don't
of
think
his
he's the right
some
man for
clips
the job,
and
but
the
he's up to
mistakes and the
task.
gaffes
He
he's made,
actually
they're,
has his
at least in my mind,
faculties
pretty
very
comparable. Would you trust
clearly.
Trump to lead the troops?
It's
Trump
like a
looks
slow
20 years
boil.
younger
Like
than
I've been
Biden.
in the water for so long as it's heating up. I'm like, should I jump out or not? I can't tell. He seems cogent, like faculty-wise. He seems like I've never heard him like say the wrong country's name or anything when he was talking about geopolitics or like say a world leader's name wrong. I've never heard him do that stuff.
Well, I would say Nancy Pelosi is a type of world leader. Didn't he mix her
Did
up
he
with
mix
Nikki
her up?
Haley like 4 times?
He's 80. He's old. I mean,
I would say,
he's and it's genetic age and solar age are not the same thing. So you can fly around the sun 50 times but have the body of a 35-year-old if your chromosomes are healthy. So there's
Sure.
that.
thinking there were vast deserts in Vietnam. Maybe there are. I'm not sure, but that was another claim. Trump seemed to mix up Vietnam and the Iraq War. I actually think having a dementia-addled president is base as fuck. I would actually say,
Yeah,
I would actually go to Ian's earlier skepticism, and I say, who better to represent the head of the government to you than somebody who can't remember what lie to tell? If you really didn't believe the president, wouldn't this be the best guy ever? Like, is your Alzheimer's grandma or mother, is she gonna like concoct crazy lies and plots in front of you, or is she just gonna be accidentally
gonna
honest
read
as much
off
as she
the
can be? I
script.
feel
my-
like
My concern is that they're like, here, Joe, hold the pen, and they're like moving his arm, not literally, but that like people like throw stuff on his desk. He's like, and then he signs it, and it's like, yo, we need somebody that's like,
oh, sure, but then, like, let's say,
contrary.
then we either have, like, the crack team puppeteers behind Biden who passed a historic amount of bipartisan legislation in a historically divided Senate and who got us out of horrible conflicts.
Nope. No thoughts.
The same people
Not
also
them.
slid a bill across that said, hey, can we finally get the out of Afghanistan? He was like, oh, sure, I don't know why we're over there. Okay, we got out of Afghanistan. We don't really have troops over there anymore. We're not really participating much in Syria
Hundreds of
anymore. And we
billions
got
in
rid of the
weapons that we left.
Saudi-led coalition for the Yemen drone strikes. We don't do that under Biden. So I would say, if it is the fact that Biden is a puppet, then I would vote for the people pulling his strings over whatever the hell Donald Trump wants to do.
the Afghanistan thing.
I'm not voting for either. But
What
I would
happened in
never vote
Afghanistan,
for
I call it a surrender
a
because it was like the
completely
strongest military on earth surrendered
incompetent
$80
president.
billion of equipment to the Taliban.
Well, the Soviet Union and the U.S. has done this over and over again. It's called guerrilla warfare. Israel is experiencing it right now. It's really hard to beat people that are entrenched in areas over long periods of time. That's just that's always the case, though, right?
Yeah, the offensive aspect of the war in Afghanistan had whittled down. We weren't aggressing anymore, but we were still there in a defensive posture. And he opened the gates. Basically, he abandoned Bagram Air Force Base overnight and allowed the Taliban to just come rolling into our air superiority, which was defending the
Well,
military
yeah, but whose
base.
fault do you think that was?
Biden's fault.
That was Donald Trump.
Biden is the one who made the call.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he
Biden
was
was
the
following
commander
through
when that
on the
happened.
so Donald Trump did the whole Doha agreements where he had a talk between him and the Taliban and the Afghanistan National Army. They weren't even involved. The Afghans weren't even involved in this conversation. Trump basically set a timetable for when we said we would be out of the country, and then he drew down troops to historically low levels, kicked the can down the road, and then Biden came into office. A weaker man, or maybe even a less senile man, would have said, you know what, we need to shore up our security
less
situation in
senile
Afghanistan. We
man.
need to surge another 5,000 or 10,000 troops over. But you know what Biden did? He said, why the f*** are we over here again? And he pulled us out. So
It was. He
the
pulled us
Afghans
out.
lost
support the
confidence in
pullout,
they
just
lost
not
confidence
the
in
way it
themselves
was
and in
done.
us and in everything as soon as we started making
armed our
agreements behind
enemies,
their back with the
and we
Taliban.
lost a lot
I mean,
of
there was nothing else for them to
equipment
do.
that we could've
We basically had no
sent to
confidence in them
Ukraine or for
whatsoever.
anything.
For sure, I
Nothing
think that
else.
we, as our government, was f***ing them around for 20 years. I mean, no goodwill to that country. It was all about, as far as I can tell, the resources, the oil and the poppies. They wanted those resources in the land. You know, it's kind of like a land bridge over the Suez. You can protect the Suez Canal from that area of the world, and then you get your Mediterranean trade. But like, Trump had set a date, I think it was in May, to get everybody out of Afghanistan, and then Trump came in and was like, Biden came in and said, we're going to do it on September 11th. It was like a photo op. We're going to do it on this day. And they weren't prepared. You've got to prepare your withdrawal. If you're going to retreat and you don't want it to turn into a rout, you need to make sure that your rear is
Wait,
protected.
what is a rout?
A rout is when you flee in disarray.
No, I understand what a rout is. The only Americans that died, was it 11 or 12 that died too? I think it was ISIS bombers, or an ISIS suicide bombing attack. Like, it's not like the Taliban was attacking our shit. Yeah, they rolled through the cities way quicker than we expected them to. But again, it's because we completely and totally undermined the Afghans by not involving them. We didn't even involve them in the talks at all. When they actually did an OIG report and tried to figure out, I think it's called SIGAR. What was the Security Inspector General report. I wish I could remember the abbreviation. But yeah, I mean, basically, as soon as we made that agreement during the Doha talks, the Afghans were like, "This is fuck us, I guess. They don't care about us, so whatever." We can argue that the pullout from Afghanistan might not have been ideal. That's fine. But the reality is Trump set the stage for that to happen by making those agreements. He put us on that timetable. He drew down troops to historically low levels, and then he kicked the can down to Biden. And he was like, well, let's see what you do. And as much as it might have been rushed, and as much as, it sucks that there was a terrorist attack that could be pulled out, thank God we're out of Afghanistan. I can't imagine. I'm actually fighting with conservatives today that are pro-Russia, pro-Putin, and that wanted us to stay for longer in Afghanistan. Like, where are the values? It's like whatever Trump does, we will follow him to the end of the earth, and whatever Biden does, we do the exact opposite. Like, we complain about foreign wars and everything.
7 billion?
Biden stopped participating with Saudi-led drone strikes and airstrikes in Yemen for the Saudi war over there. Donald Trump obscured the drone attack data from us. He stopped publishing that information. And we were all critical of Obama. Why are you participating in anything with Syria? And then these same people are clapping when Donald Trump decides to bomb a Syrian airport, because I guess whoever he talked to the day before said it'd be a good idea to do it. We all accused Biden of abandoning our American allies when ISIS, does a terrorist attack, when we pull out of Afghanistan on Trump's timetable that he kind of committed everybody to. But then we just kind of turn a blind eye when Donald Trump is like, Kurds? What, like Cheetish Kurds? Or the Wisconsin cheese Kurds or whatever? Like, he has no idea who these people even are, and he leaves them to the Turkish armies to just lay waste to them in northern Syria when he pulls us out of there. It's so many bad. We look at Israel-Palestine today, and people are like, oh my God, the fighting here, like this was definitely Biden's fault. This wouldn't have happened under Trump. What did Trump do for Israel-Palestine? He said, hey, you annexed the Golan Heights, good for you. We're going to move the embassy to Jerusalem because we think that's a good idea too. How did he help with that? Like, everything he did was bad.
Well, that's hyperbole, but I get what you're saying. I agree that moving the embassy to Jerusalem was a terrible geopolitical move. It incited tension like no other. And him giving up control of the drone war program, Trump, they say no new wars. That's fallacious. He gave secret, covert drone war command to the generals. The commander said, I don't want to command anymore. You guys do it. Don't tell anyone about it. Like, what the fuck? But the Afghanistan thing, I'm not a guy that was like, I wanted to stay in Afghanistan. I hated that shit since 2006 or whatever. I've been screaming about it on the internet, but like, it gets to a point where like you need an organized retreat.
Yeah.
And if the day comes and you're not ready, you don't leave. You wait until you're ready. It's war.
Yeah.
And how many civilians lost their lives? Tim Kennedy.
Let's feed Kitty, Jazz. You ready for some food, Jazzy? we're back. We're back.
He went over there with this NGO to save people, to get them out when they were withdrawing, when they were fucking fleeing. And he said women were running up to the base. There's barbed wire, then there's a wall, then there's barbed wire. And they had babies, and they would throw their babies up over the wall, and the babies would get caught in the barbed wire.
Oh my
'Cause
God.
They were like, they're coming.
Why do we care about those babies getting thrown into the barbed wire, and then 26 Republican governors support Abbott putting barbed wire on the border? Those people are closer and easier to save. What is the selective care here? I don't buy it at all. I just don't believe it. There's no way. I don't believe it at all.
The difference would be like if there were military allies and the civilians of our military
Like
allies.
the
at
Kurds
time.
were, or
The Afghani people.
No,
they were getting slaughtered by the Taliban when we pulled out, basically.
we had Kurdish allies in
let's take
Syria
one
that we
here.
also worked with a lot, that Trump completely abandoned
Wait.
and let the Turkish Air Force lay waste
Oh,
to,
no.
because I don't even know why. Like I said, somebody must have told him the day before. These people, I guess. Trump was atrocious in every sense of the word in foreign policy. I don't even know how somebody can defend Trump and then start talking about foreign policy
How
next.
is he atrocious in every sense
Like
of
the
the word?
wars that we had under
No
Trump
new
were what? He didn't do
wars,
anything
Abraham
about Ukraine, even though he
Accords.
says, "Oh, I would have stopped it." No, you weren't. You were just trying to get more Hunter dick pics from Zelensky. He didn't do anything to kick Russia out of Crimea. He made a horrible agreement in Afghanistan. Arguably, not really arguably, the Abraham Accords undermined Palestinian sovereignty, and that was only in response to Netanyahu threatening to annex the West Bank. He increased and inflamed tensions there. He pulled us out of the nuclear deal with Iran, which was actually preventing them from heading towards a nuclear weapon. We got pictures with Kimmy.
Biden gave
It's just like
Iran
bad decision after bad
their
decision after
money
bad
back
decision.
and
And then under Biden, we're supporting Ukraine. I think that's a righteous cause.
killed US troops
We're
over
supporting.
Missouri.
We're tightening the leash on Israel. I think that's a righteous cause. Biden, for the first time, thank God, a return to Bush era pressure, I think, is finally starting to sanction West Bank settlers that are committing violence against Palestinians. And now in Yemen, right? We've bombed how many missile installations? Unless the news has changed over the past week, because I've been traveling a lot. I don't think there have been any civilian deaths yet. Have there been? Guy? No? Okay, he says no,
None
so
that
I'm going to
I'm
go with
aware
him. Yeah, all of our foreign policy initiatives under Biden, I feel proud defending them. I think having Israel as a worthy ally, for whatever people think about it, and restraining them a bit, at least fighting for humanitarian aid, I think that's a worthy cause. Ukraine is a worthy cause. I think that destroying whatever is attacking trade, that would be going up through the Suez Canal, the Strait of Aden, that's a worthy cause. These are just so much better than Trump. Do you think that Biden is worse on foreign policy than Donald Trump?
Oh, jeez. Wow, it's tough because it's not like it's not a video game where they have the same stats. It's like two different people in two different times in history.
So let me try to ask it this way. What is your favorite thing about Trump's foreign policy, and what was your least favorite thing about Trump's foreign policy? And same question for Biden.
My
Go
favorite
ahead.
thing about Trump's policy was when he went to North Korea and hung out with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah,
like the willingness
that.
to at least communicate with who we perceive to be enemies is like, all right, now that we got a foot in the door, maybe we can avoid war. That's my favorite thing, is that he was willing to go.
let's
He's a celebrity.
We're happy
you know,
with it.
I'm not.
Um,
My least favorite thing about him was
obviously
how
that
emotional he
trade
was
earlier,
with
but
his
it wasn't
decision
as
making.
bad
Like
as it looked,
I remember
because
when he first got
stupid
elected, I felt like I
trading
got
view
punched in the
wasn't
gut.
working,
I was
registering
like,
my
what
trades.
is happening right now? And then about,
Note to
I was like,
self,
all right,
if
I'm
you're
giving this
in
guy.
a live
I
account,
support
don't
the
keep putting
president.
trades
I don't
on.
care about who it is. I support the office. I support the
Jesus.
union. And then
But,
a couple months in, he
you know,
tweeted out
in
those
the
radical
personal
leftists.
account,
I'm like,
in the
he's a
private
divider.
account,
He's here to
like-
divide us. He's talking about them and us.
We've,
It's like, it's us, dude. It's all us. You're the president now.
Even back
You're
out
the
on the
one
day.
unifying us. And that was my
doing
least favorite
okay.
thing. Biden, I don't want to, I would say his temper.
I'm
But like,
thinking-
is my least favorite thing about Joe is that he gets angry at reporters, but it's like,
Trump literally made fun of a guy with
yeah, that's why not my final answer, temper, not final answer.
Take your time. Take your
It's
time.
really the way his mind's been failing, man. It's tough to watch, and it's really disturbing
Can you
to see
give
a
us an
commander fall.
example of a decision he's made or failed to make that you think is a result of this mental decline?
Well, the Afghanistan surrender for sure.
You think that was because of his mental
A
decline?
really good military commander would have been, we're not abandoning the Air Force base yet. We need to get our guys out first. And that was a poor command. I don't know who made the decision, but he's the commander. Like, you think, dude, like you're in control of the lives of humanity at the moment. But my favorite thing about Joe, I've had problems with him since 2006. I remember watching him debate Obama, and I was like, why is he on stage? Who is this guy? And I found out later that he was a plagiarist. In 1988, he plagiarized his campaign speech and had to drop out of his presidential election campaign for plagiarism.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Is this
guy-
your favorite thing? Like I'm waiting.
I've
for
never
that.
really liked him.
Nothing.
I would say I like his ability to exude authoritarianism, like his height.
Okay.
Like he's a big dude, but I don't know him personally.
Sure. But any decision, so there is no decision that Biden has made as a president of the United States that you think that was a good decision.
Oh no, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say that. It's tough to tell, but he paid off my student loans. I was actually kind of pissed off about that. I've been paying off my
Okay,
student loans
I'm
for
asking
25
for
years.
a good decision. I just want to be very clear. I'm sorry, I don't mean to press this home, but I'm really trying here. Can I get a good decision?
Yeah. I think
Yes.
when they laid off of the states during COVID, and they were like, we're not gonna, if Florida wants to open up, we're not gonna stop them. Like that was a good decision to let the states take charge.
That's
Okay, fair enough. Well, we are.
Yeah, I would have
I'll
trouble.
vibe on that. My
Please.
favorite, I liked, there was something historic for Donald Trump visiting Kim Jong-il? Un.
Yeah.
Because I think it was really interesting. I think that was the first time in all of U.S. history that an active president of the United States saluted another person's army. Don't think that had ever happened in all of U.S. history. Saluted Kim soldiers.
No, World War II. That was Eisenhower giving the British the.
Did
love.
he? Did
Yeah.
Brit- did I did it?
I have
My
no
understanding
idea.
is-
TBH, I haven't seen a video of it. I just
Okay,
think I
and
have.
then
Can we get a fact check on that?
Oh, you're right. He wasn't the president.
wow, look at this
Not at that
buzzkill.
point.
Okay.
He's just a general or supreme allied commander.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and my least favorite. I'm sorry, we've only got however many minutes left, so yeah.
No, take your time.
I would probably say it was contacting Ukraine and threatening to withhold congressionally approved aid from them in order to get compromising information on a political opponent. I would think that's probably my
Fair
least
enough.
favorite foreign policy
What
decision.
about Biden then? Same questions. Least favorite thing about Biden and most.
I would say my most favorite thing, I would say, is I'm pleasantly surprised with how the leadership in Ukraine has gone from start to now. Obviously, fighting for congressional funding is hard, but I think publicly releasing all of the information that we were getting from Intel before the invasion, I think being a strong leader in supporting Ukraine, especially given the potential unpopularity of it at home, I thought was really brave. I think it was the right thing to do. I like that Biden has continued to be a strong proponent of the Ukrainians. I
kinda
like the big
don't think
op-ed
we're
that he had
reversing
written
here, right?
about
So that's
managing
why,
foreign
I
policy,
mean,
or his
if this
ghostwriters or
comes
whoever,
and
the
takes
puppet
that high out,
masters,
it is
wrote.
probably
I
a
think it was good.
why
I think
in
Ukraine in general, I'd
this-
probably say is the proudest. What am I the least proud of? It's possible the Afghanistan pullout probably could have been handled better. Although I don't know at the end of the day, I'm not sure if Biden was the one making the call on that. I'm pretty sure that Inspector General report, I think, said that situation deteriorated so much quicker than I think anybody in the United States. I shouldn't laugh. I'm sorry.
But it
it's
probably
pretty
will
tragic.
revert,
I think that it
actually.
deteriorated faster than anybody thought. I think they thought they had a few more weeks
'cause there was
before the
divergence
Taliban
here.
were literally encroaching on air bases
S&P
like that.
divergence.
And I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
just because my
it's
mind
Will.
is here right
You know,
now.
my cat.
I wish there would
Her
be
name's Jasmine,
stronger
she's a
overtures
Persian.
to
love her, she's a little
Iran
baby.
and to Israel to try to figure out some kind of solution there going
Can
forward.
you to Iran and Israel? Can you give us an example of what that would look like?
The far right in Israel needs to be reined in like crazy. There needs to be insane sanctions on West Bank expansion. I personally think the United States has the power. They should make contingent every single dollar that goes into that country on halting every single new construction, new permit or whatever for the West Bank stuff. Because all it's doing is delaying any potential peace process, and it's just putting both the Palestinians and the Israelis on on the same track to crash into each other. I think that there has to be really harsh penalties until they figure that out, because it's just led to so much conflict and unneeded tension. It's stupid.
What do you think about the New World Order?
Which one?
Good question. The one
Weren't
that
they a
George-
wrestling group or something?
What's that?
Wasn't there a WWF group, the New World Order, or something like that? Or
Is
something
that
like
Sting?
WCW,
NWO?
bro.
Yeah, I think
Come
so.
on,
NWO,
bro.
the
Oh,
one
well,
from
it's a
the
different
WWE.
thing.
Oh,
I got
WCW back in the day. That was my 7th grade, bro. That was oof. The white and black versus the red and black. NWO, Wolfpack. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. get there on the mic.
There's one man. You're looking at him, the leader, Big Sexy. Well, maybe that predominantly red and black.
Wolfpack in the house.
Miami FLA. Wolfpack in the house.
This is the red and black. They also had the white and black who were the bad guys.
I got the hookup. Holler if you hear me.
There we go. Olale! Arriba la raza!
Na 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 na. All right, let me speak on this.
Olale!
Arriba la raza.
Arriba la raza!
Now, yo, Miami B, my hometown. Westchester, Kendall, Calle Ocho, Carroll City, MIA.
But where is DX? Who's D-Generation X, dude? That's what we need.
You know,
They were Wolfpack as well.
We talking about them for life, but Wolfpack, nosotros somos unos vatos locos for.
Forever!
But more importantly than that, the MIA is Bowdy Bowdy.
Yeah, fun.
You know, the Wolfpack is real excited to be in Miami tonight. You know, it's a real bonus to know that Hogan
Total
and
package.
Bret the Hitman Hart are feeling the fighting spirit. that
Hogan
they're so
and Bret the
frisky
Hitman Hart were
that
the
they'll lay out
white
and
and black.
challenge The Stinger and myself, because the Wolfpack loves a tune-up match for the War Games coming up. And I just got off the cell phone with Stinger. He is en route.
Oh,
He will be
Sting,
here.
that's
And we'll
right.
take
We
you up on
love
your offer,
Sting
and
too,
we're looking
dude.
forward to it. And Bret Hart, I guess you got a little dilemma because you admire Mr. Hogan so much, but you say you're so tight with Stinger, so you got a real dilemma in the ring tonight, don't you? And I'm really looking forward to it. Take it, Big Kev. Now for the rest of the Wolfpack business. You know, the announcers come out here week in and week out, and they say that Kevin Nash is the leader of the Wolfpack. Well, we ain't got no leader. The Wolfpack is a unit. Now, for War Games, we can only have 3 of us participate in the games. So what we did, in a very Armageddon-type move, is we drew straws, and the Wolfpack's 3 guys are gonna be Sting,
Yeah, we love Sting.
the Total Package Lex Luger,
Oh, let's move it. Right.
and some cat they call Big Sexy.
Alright. Fun.
I don't know. I get my
Is that
acronyms. for this.
WCW or WWE?
It's the one that George
WCW,
Bush
bro.
Sr. was talking about in the 90s, that they're, so basically we have this liberal economic order that we've had since 1949, where after World War II, they're like, we can't ever have another world war, we need some sort of global government. Let's make it a liberal economic order, we'll call it the U.S. rules-based economy. In the U.S., we'll set up military bases all over Earth, we'll fund it with our banks, and we will protect the planet. So that's what we've done for the last 70 years, limited war, Henry Kissinger's idea. Instead of going total war, you fight each other in skirmishes like Vietnam.
Yeah, I think it's been
Afghanistan.
pretty fucking awesome.
It has been it's been least bad. And if you look at the map, global maps of like nation borders, they haven't been changing the last 70 years. It's been pretty stable.
Well, Russia's trying to change some right now.
The
but
Ukraine, Bosnia, when that split off from Serbia, that was a border change, but that was
the
about it.
Yugoslavia collapse, yeah.
And the Soviet Union obviously collapsing. But other than that, it's been stable. You look at the last 70 years. So they want to do this new global order where it's like, we're done with the American military base thing, which I kind of get. I don't like being like, my foot is on your neck, every country in the world. I have a military base outside your door. I'm okay, like, maybe we do need to change that. But this new thing that they want to do, it's like, I don't know, I call it technocratic fascism. I'm not exactly sure how to define it, but like where they can turn your money off digitally if you say the wrong thing online.
Do you think that's a widespread thing? Do you think this is an active threat to liberty and things?
Yes,
Do you think I guess
absolutely.
I'll ask it this way.
Kidding?
You described it as a new world order. So do you think this is a organized thing? And my questions would be, who is organizing it and for what
WEF.
purpose?
Who? I don't know. They do it at
Central
Davos. They talk
bankers.
about it a lot. They meet and they talk about like how are we going to govern this planet? What are we going to do with all these? Yuval Noah Harari, who works at the World Economic
All these
Forum, said
useless
he referred to
people.
people as useless eaters one time. He's like, what do we do with all these people that like they come home, they drink, they watch TV, they go to bed, they get up, they go crunch the thing.
That's my viewing audience, and you'll treat them with respect, sir? No,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
kidding.
It's so many humans, and the way he referred callously to as the useless, I get what he's saying utilitarianly. Like, what are they contributing to the growth of the planet or the evolution of our species? And are they dangerous? Because if the power goes out, they're like, power to the people, and you get all those people to stand up and just go where the guy points them to go. That could be very bad. So they're like, what do we do with all these people? Do we put them in pods? Do we put them on pharmaceutical psychoactives and just have them in the metaverse all day so that they're pacified?
And do you think that they have actual power and influence over the world stage?
Yeah, are you kidding
financially. And I'm wondering, this is where I start to lose the
me? You kidding me? Like, who is at Davos, bro? Who is at the World Economic Forum in Davos, bro? Are you kidding me? Plus, you got the central bankers, man. They control everything. They print all the money for all the countries, manipulate the markets.
Together of who's running the show. You look at the Bank for International Settlements in
Yeah.
Switzerland. It's like the central bank of central banks. The New York Federal Reserve, the Bank of London, and the Bank of Australia run their money through this Swiss bank called. Our bank is Swiss, basically. Our money is Swiss money. And so, who runs the Bank for International Settlements? It's kind of obfuscated at that level. Who are those people? I don't know. I don't even know if it matters. But
No, it's fine. I was just.
Yeah,
You can finish your thought,
you
then
guys
I'm-
don't
yeah,
know
and I
that
think we have an
stuff
opportunity
is
now
too
as the world order is changing
conspiratorial.
to make it in the guise of the American Republic. Like we can
Ian
inspire
knows.
free speech at the centerpiece of this, but if we do nothing and we just show the world that we bitch at each other, they're going to make some technocratic fascist, some corporate fascist government, and then they're going to pull the money supply right when you think,
I think I might
or
be done
turn the
trading for
power
the
off right when
day.
you. That's my concern.
Sure.
Where are you at?
Destiny, New World Order, threat. What
Yeah,
are your
I
thoughts?
don't think I believe in any of that.
Okay.
I don't know, yeah.
I don't know what you say you don't believe
Fair
in,
enough.
bro.
Okay, gang.
What are you even saying you don't
We've
believe
gone
in,
a
bro? You
lot of
don't
places
believe that
to a lot
the
of
banking
different
families
directions
own the
tonight.
central banks.
I want to thank you,
It's
Ian, for
it's
coming, and I want to
absolute
thank you as
fact.
well, Destiny. And we're going to have. So hold your applause. Okay. We are going to have a question and answer session. 20, 30 minutes. So if you have questions, and if you want to ask either of these gentlemen a question, please line up on the, I guess it would be your right side, and stay behind the black line. I'll call you up one at a time. Please have your questions ready. Now, gang, can we give it up for these two wonderful gentlemen? Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Actually,
I'd also say too, Ian, thank you for joining me up here. This is obviously, you're in the Lion's Den. These are all my fans,
Dude,
so
this
very
is
brave of you
great,
to come up and
man.
do this.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks for coming out. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming out.
Yeah,
I
I want to
wanted
talk about
to-
God and Jesus and all that.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to each. Thank you, Destiny. I'm going to give each of them a brief, and I suggest brief. I stress concise closing thoughts on this. Final thoughts, and then we'll get to questions. Ian, we're going to start with you, and then
My
final.
final thoughts is I feel like guilty that I didn't have a really nice thing to say about Joe when you asked me Biden. I'm thinking
I
about
forgive
it.
you,
I'm
but you
feeling
can
in
make
my
it up to
gut.
me later.
'Cause he was a good dad. I mean, I don't know if he's a good dad.
No,
but
he
he seems
was
to really
not.
love
Whoa,
Hunter.
whoa,
It's like
whoa,
he's
whoa, whoa! Whole time out. Good dad? Absolutely not a good dad. Can we talk about Ashley Biden's diary? How she blames showering with her dad for her sex addiction and drug addiction. Can we talk about Hunter Biden and his delinquency? I mean, come on. Good dad?
distraught by some of the stuff Hunter's been going through, which is like, the dude's got some emotional capacity. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to meet people that are friends with him and get to know him a little better.
Okay. Well, I hope one day you do get to meet him. Destiny, final thoughts?
Doubtful. What are you meeting?
You should trust our systems. They're working pretty well. We got an amazing society. I think it's going to be skeptical of everything, but, you know, again, to quote my mom, don't be so open-minded that you let your brain fall out of it. I think it's good to be skeptical, but at the end of the day, I think we need to recognize that we're accomplishing something really great. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening in this country right now. Our economy has swung back around. People are finally realizing it. I was right. So all the subreddit posters that said that I was out of touch and then made unhinged posts about how you only make $400,000 a year and can't figure out how to live your dink fucking life. Fuck you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to be able to recognize all the cool things we've done as a country, to be able to take credit for those cool things, and yeah, don't be so doomerism about everything. Yeah.
You hear that, gang? Thank you again. Let's get to these questions. Once again, let's give it up for these wonderful gentlemen.
The great and powerful Wick.
Yeah, give it up for me, too. I'll take your applause as well. Yes, louder. Let's go. Hell yeah. Okay. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. I'm done with you. I'm done. Okay. Let's get to some questions. Again, orderly line. If your question is dumb, I will milk you. Okay. First guest, please. Just right here, please. Yeah. What's your question?
Ian, I would like to say, you said earlier, I don't like people who make claims and don't back that up. In the beginning of the debate, you talked about how to gain more trust in the voting system in the United States for the average Joe and the general people. You said that we should have 9 blockchains, have a way to have the ballot encrypted on that. And you said, self-admittedly, that this 9 number was chosen arbitrarily. Can you tell me why the average U.S. citizen who is technologically illiterate should trust your solution and have more trust in the system whenever it's the case that our system has been used with generally no change over the past 248 years to great success?
Why they would trust more now with a change as opposed to what we had before? You're asking?
Yes, I'm asking a technologically illiterate populace is going to trust the voting system more with your proposed change over a system they already don't trust that's been iterated upon to general success for 248 years straight.
What's not arbitrary is having multiple blockchains. The number 9 was an arbitrary number within that, so having a lot of different reference points to validify your votes, I think, would give people some semblance of trust. And the way that things have been digitized, geez, I could go on and on about this, but I feel like the pen and paper age is kind of, at least on, it doesn't, it's too easy to like, to mess with that stuff, in my opinion. I don't know, maybe it's just about kind of waking people up or changing the way that they think about trust in general and whether or not they need to trust. But honestly, I'm not really as interested in making people trust things. I don't want them to have to feel like they should or not. Like it should be irrelevant, the trust levels of these processes.
Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for the question.
Thanks,
really
man.
Appreciate you. Give it up for this guy, whoever he is. I don't know. Good guy.
That's a dumb question.
No, I didn't actually want to know your name, but it's okay. No, I'm kidding.
What is your name, by the way? I didn't. Oh, cool, dude.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Hi. Appreciate Ian you coming out. I got 2 questions for you. First one, do you think something like Neuralink, is that something really that you want? Because it seems like conservatives have a big problem trusting systems. They can trust individuals, but why don't we just take that away and just be connected in one hive mind? Would that solve your issue?
Well, it depends on how you hive up. If you can watch what the machines are doing in the code, I talk about a lot about the code. It's maybe overly too much, but I would be a little more likely to trust that they're not reverse engineering my thought processes. But I don't even know if they could just hijack and do a backdoor through it, even with valid code, and change my thoughts without me realizing it. I do not trust that thing at all. But the thing is, it's like, are you going to step up and hit the gas when you go on the freeway? Because everyone, that's what the neural net is it's like we're accelerating. If you're not accelerating, you're the threat to the society. You're the one that's a danger to traffic if you're not going the speed of everyone else. And it's like, do you become part of the machine to preserve the machine? That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, do I have to, like Job from the Lawnmower Man? Do I have to go in there and just consciously be no thought?
So, at what point would you accept Neuralink?
Yeah, but I don't want to tether it into my head. I'm waiting until they put on like a helmet you can put on and take off.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that, dude.
Are you registered to vote?
No.
Well, we can do that here.
You know, I haven't.
Oh, we have the paper here.
I voted in 2008 was the last time I voted. But I'll tell people to vote for a guy is what I do.
Why don't you follow that?
You just go vote it?
Yeah, just go vote. I mean, if you're advocating to vote for someone,
I don't know who to vote for. I was
but
going to
then
vote for Vivek.
How are you advocating for people to vote then?
Well, you should vote for who you want to vote for.
Okay, but I understand, but how do you have somebody that you are advocating for and you're not voting for them yourself?
Vivek, but he's not running anymore.
Oh.
I'm like, I don't want to do the least worst thing with this. It's like I vote for someone I believe in or I don't vote is kind of my methodology.
Yeah.
But I don't
Kinda
know.
moving
Maybe it
in
is a
that
least
direction,
worst
too.
system where we're like,
We need to
somebody's got to get across the
strengthen.
finish line.
Probably not. Don't vote. I mean, I don't know, but I think we need to strengthen a third party. The third party can be the most powerful party if they're a swing party that gets courted. And I think that's how we function best is when we have two large minorities and then a swing middle that I would like to see codified by a candidate, you know? I want to see if independent with like 15, 20% of the vote. I think that would be, and maybe RFK is that this year? I might vote for RFK. I was also voting for, wanting to vote for Vivek. I was registered as a Republican this year so I could vote in the Republican primary in New York, but Vivek's dropped out, so I don't even know.
Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you for your question.
Thanks, man.
Sir. Give it up for Dorian. Yeah, Dorian. Yeah.
Another shitty question.
Hi, Ian and Destiny. I'm Ace. Thank you for coming to Cincinnati for this wonderful debate.
This
Quick
looks
question. So while I was
bearish,
canvassing,
but
some of the
also
things that I've heard
on the daily looks
from
like it could hold it.
local folks here is that they feel like their vote is not significant or doesn't matter. Some of the reasons I've gotten
doesn't.
are very similar to what you've said, like around the deep state, kind of things like that. So I'm curious, what do you say to people? And I didn't know this when I wrote this question that you don't vote, but I'm curious from Destiny's perspective too. What do you say to people that their vote is insignificant because it's just one, or we don't know what happens after the fact? What do you say to people like that, or do you even engage with them?
Little lady.
We'll let Ian answer first, and we'll go.
Your
to
votes are significant, especially en masse. If you can coordinate voting efforts, it's super powerful. Understandable to question the validity of the voting process too, but that doesn't mean don't do it. Still do it. It's like if you don't do it, you lose. If you do it, you might win. So it's that kind of mentality. Go for it.
Okay. Destiny.
I mean, like, yeah, your vote matters. Like, there are elections that are decided by small outcomes, but even if it's not decided by a small outcome, it's not just you. Like, you're part of a greater cog. You're part of a bigger machine. Voting is kind of boring and it kind of sucks, and sometimes it can be hard to figure out how to sign up, but this is kind of like your responsibility under a democratic system. Like, you have to do it. It's part of, it's part of what you do. Like, picking up a piece of trash on the side of the street doesn't really make your entire city cleaner, but it makes that street cleaner, and every little bit contributes to hopefully a greater cause.
So does not voting make you a bad person?
It just makes you a non-participant in democracy, and I think, you should stop and consider that.
Do you think I should vote for the least worst candidate?
We always vote for least worst candidates.
I normally just have, if I don't love the guy, I don't vote. But you think I should switch it up?
I mean, I'm glad you don't vote, but I mean, like, I think that if you have like a vested interest in the system, I think you should vote because every vote, like, how many other people might think like you and would vote for somebody different, but decide not to, just because they're like, fuck it, I don't want to anyway.
In 2008, I made a video to Barack Obama, and I was like, Barack, you're going to win, and you're going to serve 2 terms. And then they featured it on YouTube. So that's like fascism too. They were like, well, I want Obama to win too, so let's use technology to make it happen.
Featuring your content is fascism?
Yeah, I got like 60,000 views. It was back
Are we
in
doing
news and
fascism
politics.
now?
What's that?
By featuring you, are we doing fascism now?
Technically, the word's starting to, you know what I'm talking about. The word's starting to lose flavor, but I understand what you're saying. Technically, we are mass manipulating the voting process just by talking about it in a video. Like, we're able to change things so rapidly with this technology.
Okay. Any other questions?
But I'm not a corporation.
I have 2 more. That's fine. Oh, one more. Okay, fine, one more. Okay, you guys can decide which one you want to go. Like, okay.
Pick your favorite one and give it.
Fair. One of the other things that I heard a lot from people was about Biden and whether he sounds weak compared to strong Trump. So who do you think on the world stage comes across as more strong versus weak in people's perception?
Strong global leader Putin is an example. He doesn't get a lot of media attention.
I'm assuming it's between Trump and Biden.
Oh, the 2 of them. Trump seems like a stronger leader. Strong isn't always good. If it's too strong, it becomes brittle. So tensility, you need like to balance out your strength with your malleability. Trump doesn't. I don't feel to him to be super. I want to be wrong because I know a lot of his friends and his family, and I want to help him become a better human, whether he's president or not. And I don't want to insult the guy unnecessarily, but I think he has a strong essence, like a persona.
Okay.
How
Quick answer?
does Trump project strength? Like, how do we feel like if we look at Trump and Biden, why do we feel like Trump is stronger than Biden?
He's like, no,
Because one
Nope.
falls walking upstairs, and the other one is in very good shape for his age.
and then he just does
Very
the thing.
clear. Very
Like,
clear.
he has the money to back it up.
He's trolling. He's got to
Wait,
be
what, like
trolling.
what thing?
Whatever, if it pushes the button he wants, he tells the guy to do the thing, he fires
Well,
the guy.
so he pushed the button on the camera to take a picture with Kim. He pushed the button to pull our troops out of Syria and let all the Kurdish people that were allegiant to us die.
I think he told Putin he would nuke Moscow if he invaded Ukraine, and that's kind of a strongman
But
behavior.
Putin was literally already in Ukraine, in Crimea, since 2014.
Yeah, but at some point he told Putin he'd nuke Moscow if he messed with him or something. And then later they were like, would you? He's like, well, there's a 5% chance, but that's all you need.
Okay. I hate to cut this short, but I've been
Sorry.
told that we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to get as many questions
great.
as possible.
Yeah, Destiny is
I
trolling. He's
appreciate
trolling.
it, gang, so
I
we're going
mean,
to keep it to
if
one.
you-
Thank you, Ace. See you later.
No context. The two guys start speaking.
One
it's
question,
very
only your
obvious which
favorite.
one is
Hey guys,
stronger.
thank you Destiny for mobilizing all these guys. You talked with Peterson recently, so I am sure you've picked up on this, but he really views himself as sort of like a messiah, little Christ figure.
What?
But just using him as an example, I'm not really
Excuse
seeing
me?
the same
Peterson
number of
views himself as a
huge
messiah.
individuals being known for having like rabid cults of
That
personality
can't be
as
true.
people like people
That's
on the
not
right do, like
true.
Peterson, Shapiro, Crowder, up until his abuse arc, and Tim Pool to a lesser extent. But the left does have a few people we can point to in general, but I'm not trying to shit on the right, but what factors would you attribute this difference to, where right has these huge figures that have huge cults, the left doesn't really have people that are that in comparison in size?
Destiny's on the line.
I feel like the left had big figures for a while. I think like Bernie Sanders and AOC were like massively popular figures for a while. I think that Hassan was a big figure for a while.
Yeah.
I'll do there's just like a quick 60-second spiel into content creation. When you get involved into online content, there's probably like parallels in real life. When you get involved in online content, there's kind of two ways you can build yourself. You can either go to the beach and build a sandcastle and take a long time doing that and have waves come in and destroy your shit and maybe even drown you and kill you and you quit. Or you can find the biggest wave and ride it, but the wave comes, it crests, whatever crashes, and then you're done. And I think that when people start to build online audiences, what they do is they kind of like attach themselves to movements. And what happens is they'll get a really big boost in popularity, but you're not really interested in that person as a person. And then you kind of just like die with the movement. And I think that's why you see the rise and fall of so many other people that come in and get big for small periods of time. But they don't really build themselves or make themselves very interesting. They're just known as like Jordan Peterson was the C16 guy, and I think he's having a really difficult time finding his footing now in today's current media environment. Andrew Tate was like the red pill sex trafficker guy, and now he's going to have like a really hard time finding his.
Is Jordan Peterson having trouble finding his footing? He's on the Daily Wire. He's getting paid a salary to produce a show, right? Like, I don't think he's having trouble. I think he's doing fine.
Footing in this new media environment. I think people take shortcuts to the top by riding waves of popular sentiment, and then once the wave crashes, they realize that their fans aren't really as allegiant to them as they were the ideology that they'd attached themselves to.
And that's also not true about
Thank
Jordan
you for your
Peterson.
question, sir. Give it up for Beer Guy.
Another terrible question.
Next up. Hi. You ready?
Yes. My name is Florence Rothenberg, and I own this place, and I'm just so happy you are here. I'm clapping for you. I'm so happy you guys are here. I bought this place to improve community health, and I feel like civic responsibility is a huge part of community health. And you were talking about the role of social media and technology and trust.
We're
Social
done
media and
trading
technology
for
is
the
great,
day.
but what you guys are doing, you
This is
guys
just
are building trust, going door to door,
pretty-
bringing the best information that you
Yeah, I
have,
had their big move.
connecting, being together.
crappy since
There's
then.
something about the human connection that brings that trust out. And I think mistrust of our government is a very uniquely American thing. Do you know of any things
is
that we
it?
can learn from other countries,
As in
perhaps,
every-
to improve trust in this country?
I do, yeah. I thought about the Soviet Union as you were asking, like the amount of well, if they tell me to spy on my neighbor and to turn my neighbor in, I should do that because I trust the government more than I trust my neighbor. Like, don't do that. Don't let it get to that point. We are the government.
So what lesson would you have us take from positive lessons?
Local
specifically?
government. Local government is where it all starts, where it all should remain, and the whole federal system, we're lucky to have it because we have strong local governments working together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Distrust is a second order belief, and people get there in good ways and people get there in bad ways. I think it is an incredibly American thing to have a healthy dose of skepticism of everything. You should be you should be skeptical of large corporations. You should be skeptical of the government, whether it's local, intermediate, or huge government, or the federal government. The issue that we have right now isn't that people are distrusting the government out of a healthy sense of skepticism. It's that they just don't like who's in government, so they decide that it's not trustworthy. If I was meeting ultimately skeptical people who are like, you know what, I don't trust Facebook, and I don't trust the United States government. I think the State Department lies. There was MK Ultra. I don't know if I trust these guys. Sure, I could feel that. That's fine. And to some extent, that is a rich American tradition. What's not rich and what is completely un-American is saying, I don't trust the federal government. I trust Russia today. I don't trust the State Department, but I trust every single thing Putin says about the United States or her allies that's negative. That's not skepticism, or that's not a level of distrust that's rooted in healthy skepticism. That's distrust that's being manifested by a desire just to see your side win. So I think it's really important to remember that when people express skepticism, it's good to be skeptical, but you're not skeptical if you look at, the Democrats and you think, man, I don't trust Hunter Biden about it. Man, I've debated some incredibly smart people who they know every single thing about Hunter Biden, more than any of us should know about Hunter Biden. And then I'll ask them, well, what do you think about Jared Kushner? And they're like, that's Trump's son-in-law, right?
Yeah. He's a fucking Rothschild. That's what I think about him. I mean, nothing else to say. He is the Illuminati.
And that's it. It's like you don't know anything about the Saudi Arabian $2 billion deal for the business. You don't know anything. Billions. These are huge amounts of money. Trump created an office for his son-in-law to operate in. How do you not know anything about this, but you know everything about Hunter Biden, who's not even an elected official? That's not skepticism. That's selective skepticism, which has nothing to do with skepticism except in name only.
To that end, if there's one thing that I trust least about Trump, and obviously I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, he's a fat fuck. Him, in doing the feudal, old school, marrying off his daughter into effectively modern royalty, the Rothschilds, marrying his way into the Illuminati. That's number one on the list of why I do not trust Trump. I think, and yeah, I mean, number one reason why I think that Trump is ultimately a plant.
Only. That's just, I want my guy to win, and I'm going to employ whatever tool or tactic I need to make him win. So, yeah, sorry, to summarize, skepticism is very good, very American. Selective skepticism makes you a tool and is very un-American, I think.
Okay, thank you. Well, you all
Let her do it, let her, yeah, it's her place,
I can't
yeah.
stop you. Go ahead.
You say no, she might kick us out.
No, I just wanted to say you may not feel like your vote matters on a national level, but it matters so much at the local level. And I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying, that the local elections and your vote really makes a difference. So don't ever think that you're not making a difference with your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it up. Give it up. Next person. Come on. Concise. Okay. Preambles. Cut them out. Let's just get to the questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right. So for Destiny, I had a question. So given what you've said about we have to trust our fellow voters, people in our country, how far would you go in terms of more direct democracy? So for example, 70% of Americans say that we should legalize marijuana, but it's still a Schedule I drug. And then just a quick fact check for Ian. You said that Harari said that there were these useless eaters. He said useless class of people who would lose their jobs due to AI. There was one tweet that said that he said useless eaters, but maybe that didn't happen. So
yeah, he said useless people.
It was how
I
do we
looked for
trust
the useless eaters and I couldn't find it.
If we are to trust or design a system in which we assume
I
that
understand.
we trust
Yeah,
our fellow
the
voters,
most
he
important.
basically, in without saying the phrase useless eaters. He said, useless humans who don't contribute and just consume, right? Like, he basically said useless eaters without saying those specific words, which I think he's agreeing that that's not what he specifically said, that the useless eaters came from a tweet, but he said useless humans.
The most important thing I learned as a political streamer or watching any politics is national polls mean nothing. We have a system that works based on states. It can be state referendums. We've got a system that works based on Congress and how we allocate people to Congress. National polls mean nothing. If the majority of Americans want a particular thing, it doesn't matter unless they have like the procedural or the process tools to actually overcome that particular thing. So if you want, decriminalize marijuana, referendum it onto the state. I mean, they've done it here in Ohio, although I think they're still in the process of. I think it's still legal to sell it. I think it's legal to buy it or have it here, but it's not legal to sell it yet, or it might not be legal to buy it. But good one.
Check.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would say, I mean, referendum, do what you can, fight for the political things you can at whatever level you can, but just because something's polling nationally doesn't necessarily mean our system will grant that thing to all people.
Okay.
So should we have more federal referendums?
Federal referendums, bro, federal referendums are wild, okay? I don't know how, that Brexit stuff was crazy, that you can just like vote yourself into some insane shit. I don't know, I don't think federal referendums would be necessarily a good idea, but we have a representative democracy for a reason.
Okay, thank you. Next up.
Pretty early on, Wick asked, do we have any responsibility to ensure or strengthen the perception of how secure our vote is? And you pretty quickly and firmly said, no, we don't really have that responsibility. Do you think it might be an issue that at the ballot box, the only Americans' voices we hear are the ones that care enough to come vote? And if you don't trust or don't care about the system doesn't really care about you.
I don't think.
I mean, it being hyperbolic, I mean, we should do it with.
True, and I don't think that it's fair. I mean, I think if you don't care enough to vote, then that's fair, right? Like, why should we force people to care to vote?
We can to show transparency or to make our system look as transparent as possible. But the issue is that at the end of the day, people don't have a mistrust in our system because of the system. They have a mistrust in our system because of what people say about our system. And I think that distinction is crucial. If it was the case that we started auditing or doing recounts or looking at video footage, and all of these federal judges, a lot of them Trump appointees, by the way, were like, you know what? This was not up to code. This was not up to standard. I don't know where this ballot box came from. This audit was bullshit. Or this audit went through, and there is a huge discrepancy in votes. There's lots of counties being flipped. Then I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, our system is fucking up right now. But if there remains this deep distrust of our system, despite how many different federal prosecutors looked at all these different tapes, despite how many different independent auditors, independent investigators, independent counties, independent state legislatures, all these people looked into it and said, hey, it kind of looks pretty good. Doesn't seem like there was any outcome determinative fraud or miscounting or anything like that. But all this distrust remains. Well, am I to blame the system or the people pointing to the distrust? Or the people causing the distrust? Yeah?
There's also a difference between not trusting something and distrusting something. You're going to have to give me a reason to trust it, otherwise I'm neutral. And that means I don't trust, I don't distrust, I'm just neutral. But then I can actively distrust it if I see reason for corruption. I might start to distrust and claim, I think that is nefarious. So I'm in more of a state of just, I don't trust things unless I have a reason to.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Give it up for Bald Dude. Yay, Bald guys. Okay. We're going to do rapid fire. So what that means is because we're all long-winded, we all love to hear ourselves speak. We are going to cut that out. We're going to get short, peppy questions and short 2-second answers. Can we do this?
Gotcha. 2-second answers. Go.
Okay. Go. Next.
Name.
Come on. Let's go.
They call me 2-Second Crossland.
I'm sure they do.
Hey, Ian. I kind of like you because I think you have a far-out personality that's pretty Midwestern and.
Rapid fire questions, buddy. Yeah. He's great. What's your question?
You want to do a selfie? I think that'd be fun.
Okay, we can do that later. Yay, later. Nope, not now. Nope. Sorry, later. Bye. Next, come on.
Hello, my name's Chandler. Earlier on, you said crypto doesn't need trust, it triggers. I mean, we have tons of instances of incoming transactions of individual NFTs emptying out people's wallets completely. So, like, I'm very curious how you think, and you mentioned to my other, to my roommate, that you feel like we ignored your coding explanation. So, like, I'm very curious how you think that we would display the open source code to everyone about our voting system and how that would encourage white hat coders to dissect it and teach us how it works, as opposed to black hat coders actually making it considerably worse than when we started.
Okay, 2 seconds for that very complex question.
You know, I work with developers really intently. Like Philip Fisher would be able to answer that question from beginning to end. I don't know enough about the actual programming to tell you the difference. Maybe there's a way you could have that some triggers would be open, some triggers would be closed, and you'd want to prioritize the open triggers. I don't know, though. That would be my best off the top of my head.
I don't know. Some open, some closed. Excellent. Again, rapid fire, gang. Yes. Quick questions. Quick. Come, next.
Hey, quick respective questions. Ian, what aspect of our government would you say that you have the most trust in? And to Stephen, a lot of times I hear it sounds like you're really content with how things are. What aspect of our government do you want greatly changed, if not reformed? That's not.
He wants the Electoral College reformed.
The military. I have the most trust in the military.
More housing, and more honest about our foreign policy and what our initiatives are.
More housing, more honest foreign policy, and the military is trustworthy. Excellent. Next.
I didn't say
I
that.
love it, by the way. I love it. The rapid
7 out
fire.
of 100, but it's the most.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, come on. What we got?
What up, y'all? Shout out to y'all for coming out. Shout out for the streamers to making this happen. Destiny, what would it take for you to be convinced that the electoral system is fucked? Ian, what would it take for you to realize that it is dope?
I think if a single judge actually said hey, there's some weird stuff going on here that we don't have good explanation for, or if any of the actual the valid audits or investigations turned up big discrepancies in votes in multiple places, I think that would be oh, okay, we need to look into this more.
Okay.
At face value, if I could witness the Dominion Code, I was talking to Joe for a minute, that's funny, I would be a lot more willing to accept the electronic voting stuff if I could look at the code myself and spread it around with my developer friends.
Beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. Woo! Give it up for Hack Guy.
Joe
Guy.
Biden.
Yeah, next up. Let's go.
Woo.
So the term fascism got brought up a lot early on this debate. What is a fascist, and what makes an individual political entity fascist?
The definition I use is corporate government collusion is what fascism is. So if someone's willing to use the threat of the government to get a corporation to do a certain thing, that would be, and if you're a part of that system and you're profiting off of it, you're inadvertently fascist.
All it takes is a corporation. Okay. Well,
Pretty much. That's Mussolini's definition of it.
Okay.
I think there's two huge parts. One is authoritarianism. So you're either trying to ban political parties or opposing parties, or come down really harsh on First Amendment rights, attacking journalists, attacking freedom of speech. I think the second part is usually rabid xenophobia / hyper nationalism, where it's your country above all else, and it's usually led by a crazy populist figure who thinks that he alone can lead you into a brighter future for tomorrow, who has to be that hyper nationalist authoritarian figure.
Thank you. Excellent. Awesome. Woo! Yay! Give it up. Okay. Very last one. Let's go.
I have a question to Ian. So, after watching Putin's interview with Tucker, you as somebody who, from what I know, believes in the NATO provocation theory, don't you think that now, after that interview, isn't it obvious that it's not about NATO, but purely about Russian imperialism and historical revanchism?
That's what I got from it. It was concerning, because I thought they were just trying to take the trade port in Sevastopol, and they want those East 97 and East 105, those freeways that go down into the Crimea, so they're taking everything east of the Donbass to secure trade. That's what I thought. And then Putin comes out and he's like, actually, for 1,000 years, it's been Russia. So we have a right to it. I'm like, yeah.
So the Tucker Carlson interview changed your mind, to be clear?
Yeah. I didn't know Putin was wanted to rebuild 1,000-year-old land. No. We're in real life in modern era right now. You don't get to just switch your borders up because somebody used to live there.
Okay. Gang, this has been excellent. This has been awesome. Thank you again. Give it up for Destiny and Ian, and thank you. Woo!
Yeah, I will say that.
Praise God.
All right, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I
you
know
know,
all of
I
you
reacted to the
questioners are
Tucker
so
Carlson interview
mad right now,
yesterday,
but
and-
we don't have time for any more questions because it is 9:15 and we need to clean this place up.
I didn't get much out of it, but what I did get was that Putin came off super cold, calculating. He had an opportunity to talk to the world. Hundreds of millions of people watched that. And he didn't even try to make any appeals at all. I just had a similar interpretation of what Ian just said about him. He's not trying to make any appeals to, reason, not trying to quell any fears that he won't continue his expansion in Russia. I think that's a really good point by Ian. But anyway, I found that really interesting, much more so than yesterday's Putin discussion. So Especially, they went into crypto, which is my wheelhouse, as y'all know. So hopefully you found my commentary valuable, and I'm happy to discuss all of that much more. Just too bad that I really thought Ian knew more about it, but yeah, that Oracle question stumped him, and that was surprising to me. But all right, appreciate you guys watching.